All right. Welcome. Thanks for coming in, Joe.
Hey, thanks, Joe.
Finally got you in here. I mean, I should have asked you a lot earlier. I don't know why I didn't, but thank you for coming in. Thanks for coming and joining me for episode 91. So tonight I am honored to sit down with former U.S. Marine Joe Riddle, a Columbus native, combat engineer, and veteran law enforcement officer whose career spans more than 3 decades of service. Joe grew up in Hilltop neighborhood on the west side of Columbus and graduated from West High School before joining the Marine Corps in 1995. Serving with the 1st Combat Assault Battalion, 3rd Marine Division, Okinawa, Joe served in the Direct Action Platoon of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, operating in high-tempo maritime raid missions, before later serving in the 8th Engineers Support Battalion at Camp Lejeune. His service culminated in 1999, deployment to Haiti, where he's promoted to the rank of sergeant. After leaving the Marines, Joe transitioned into law enforcement with the Columbus Division of Police, where he served over 25 years. He spent 17 years on inner city patrol in Columbus's west side, South Linden neighborhoods, later serving as a field training officer, defensive tactics instructor, supervisor, and member of the officer support team, helping officers navigate trauma following critical incidents. Like many who serve in high-pressure environments, Joe faced the internal battles that come with cumulative trauma. After losing several friends to suicide, he sought deeper healing through Save a Warrior, completing cohort 0190 and later returning for alumni cohort 007. Today, Joe joins me and shares his story openly, speaking about mental health, resilience, faith, identity after service, and the inner war that many veterans and first responders face. So please join me and welcome my brother, Joe Riddle, to episode 91 of Former Patriots.
Thanks, Jay.
You guys sound so important when we write those, huh?
I know, right? I don't remember half that until I read it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I did do all that.
No, it's great. So a lot of stuff. I appreciate your service. I'm sure we'll talk about it. So got a quote that I'm sure you're probably familiar with from Mr. Joseph Campbell, someone you should know. So sometimes you have to let go of the life you planned to find the life that's waiting for you.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's, literally my story. Growing up on the west side with my family, I was the oldest of 3 children, but I was also a child of another father in my home. I didn't know my father. I know who he is today, but I didn't know him then. And so I remember growing up as a kid. I didn't know where I was at. Obviously, the location geographically as a child, I didn't know where I was living at. And so I remember living mostly in my grandparents' house until I was like 3 or 4 with all my aunts and uncles and my mom and, whatnot. And I was the youngest one in the room. I had 7 aunts and uncles that lived there, and my mom and my grandparents. So that was my initial introduction to family, was this big, fun, kind of safe environment. And I really enjoyed it. I still, I miss it every day. And then I can remember, one day I'm like 4 or 5. I'm in this church, I'm dressed up in a suit. It was my grandfather's church, St. Aloysius on Broad Street there on the Hilltop. And he was the deacon there. And I'm in a wedding, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what is this? What's going on? I don't know what's going on. And my aunts were like, oh, go. And they gave me this pillow and I got rings. And my mom was getting married. You know what I mean? So I can remember like seeing my dad before that, prior, like maybe a couple times that I don't remember why or where, but I think it was at my grandma Riddle's house, his parents. And the next thing I know, my parents are married and I don't live with my grandma's anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of confusing. I remember being a young guy, probably 4 or 5. I remember those memories. Like my first memories of them being in the home together were just tumultuous, man, arguing and carrying on and whatnot. And I can remember being terrified of, at night, just remembering some of the things that would go on. And a lot of that stuff I blocked out. Like I hadn't considered it, years later that it may affect me. And so, otherwise, there was no like physical abuse towards me that I can, remember, or towards my mom that I can remember, or towards my father from my mom. But, I remember it being very, very unstable. And that can be, a lot for me. I like to be out of the house a lot. I like to go outside a lot. I don't want to be inside. I want to be outside. So I spent a lot of time outside with other kids like my age and learning more about life from them kids and, what I would be around my parents. They both worked. So, and they were just young. My mom had me when she was like 16 or 17. I think they got married like maybe they were 20, 21. I don't know. They were young. And so I don't know what the motivation to marry was. It's, it's not my problem. It's not my question. So that was kind of my beginning with what family was to me. Years later, as years went on, my brothers were born, Jason and Jacob. Jason's Air Force veteran. My brother Jacob's a U.S. Marine. And it was fun having those two around. Like when they came in the picture, it was fun having little brothers. You know what I mean? It was a kind of a distraction from me, you know, but at the same time, I always knew like something was different. Like I wasn't, you know, I guess I would say a permanent part of the family. I always felt like I was in the wrong place. I always wanted to go back to my grandma's. You know what I mean? That wasn't an option, but that's what I wanted. You know, you're a little kid. That's what you want to do. So I try to spend as much time with my grandparents as possible with my aunts. My aunts did a great job of including me in like most of their lives when I was little, taking me places, taking me camping, taking me out to do things, you know, hiking, things like that. And I don't have a lot of memories of that with my parents, unless my whole family was there. Then it was kind of what we did as a family with my mom's side of the family, with my aunts and my grandparents and my uncles. And but other than that, that was like, you know, that wasn't common. It wouldn't happen all the time. It was like once or twice a year on times. You know, like on the weekends in my house, I can remember like, you know, my dad's friends coming over and my mom's friends coming over, and it was just a lot of drinking and, you know, hanging out. Like there wasn't anything crazy happening, but I can just remember like kind of like being in the other room, not being allowed to be around the adults. You know, you had to kind of keep to yourself, and
like the children's table, and
that's a real thing. So, you know, at the end of the day, it was kind of like I knew, like I didn't feel like I was very much part of that group. You know what I mean? And I never understood why when I'd go outside and all these other ladies that my mom grew up with around my grandparents' house said, "You look just like your daddy." And I'm like, huh? Like I didn't know it. Like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? I don't look like him. I don't think I do. You know, and I'm thinking, well, it's not my real father. It's he's who raised me. And you know, kudos to him for doing that. I mean, he didn't have to take me in like that, and they didn't have to put up with all that together. But I still have, you know, things that caught me off guard with at my youth that I didn't process or understand, that were probably not the healthiest things for me to be a part of. Most of my leadership and like, you know, instruction would come from like other kids I hung out with, or like my aunts and uncles, and I got to spend time with them. But, you know, I got sent to Catholic school, you know, K-8. And I went to a couple years, I went to public school. I think my mom and dad were hurting for money or something. I know the west side of Hilltop's, it's not a very wealthy area, you know. And so I remember going to public schools, and, you know, I didn't have like, you know, all the best clothes or all the best, you know, things of that nature. And really being exposed to, you know, the wild side of Columbus public schools. That's what it was. I remember being like the only white kid in third grade, and you know what I mean? And that was rough at the playground on recess, you know, and I had to stick up for myself a few times. My first fights were probably in third grade. And from there on out, I think my first real street fight I got into was a kid down the street stole my brother's bike, or knocked him off his bike, or something to assault him for the bike. And so I didn't even think. I just ran down there, found him, and we went at it, you know. Yeah. It wasn't anything super violent, but it's just, you know, I was probably 9, 10 at the time, maybe 12. I don't know. I was younger than 10.
Not super violent, but like probably something an 8-year-old or 9-year-old shouldn't be.
Exactly.
Should not be doing that.
Yeah, parents should be involved. You know what I mean?
Let's go back real quick before we keep going. Like, when did you find out you were adopted then? Was that later on?
When I got adopted at the courthouse, that's when I realized I wasn't, like my last name changed. Okay. So I didn't have the same last name as my parents initially. I had a different last name. I don't know where I was Skaggs. I don't know where that name came from. My mom's last name was Brockman. So I'm like, what? You know what I mean? That'll catch a kid off guard. You're like, what?
How old were you? Do you remember?
God, maybe second or third grade. Okay. Maybe, I don't know, second or third grade probably. And I remember, you know, being in that courthouse and talking to that judge. He's like, is this what you want to do? I'm like, yeah, you know.
Like you had an option.
Yeah, I was just there. You know, I was present. And so that's from that day on, my last name changed to Riddle. And my biological father's last name was actually Yoder. And I met that family later on in life a few years ago. They're really good people. He's not the best dude, but, you know, the family side of that, the blood side of that are really good people. I really liked them. And so, you know, that was kind of how it started for me. And then my brothers were born. And I could always tell that they were treated a little bit different than I was, obviously. Not that, you know, I was mistreated or beaten or anything, but the attention was not there, you know. And I can look back at it honestly and go, yeah, I would have done a little different, you know, but we all say that with what we didn't have, we would do. Yeah. And so, you know, I remember going to that, and I'd spend more time outside. You know, I try to be outside as much as possible. I didn't want to be in my house. I got into bike riding and hanging out at the local rec center at Holton Park up on Glenwood, and I hung out with other families. I'd spend more time with other people's families on like evenings than I did my own. I go to my friend the Huffman's families, and I got, growing up with people in my neighborhood and the different families, Farley and Hutchison's and people like that. And that's kind of what I did. That was kind of my MO. I'd just go to other people's houses and spend time, to go home at night and eat whatever dinner was made and go to bed and get up and do it again the next day. The fun part is that I was completely unsupervised for most of my teenage and youth. So I had a great time. I mean, I'm not going to complain about that. I mean, but looking back at it as being a parent now, I'm like, I would never have let my kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
But back then, the Hilltop didn't seem to be as vicious as it is now.
Yeah. I'm like torn with that because you're right. There was such freedom from that time. Like just being able, I mean, I'm a few years older than you are, but yeah, there's just like a freedom. Everybody had freedom, but now, as you're a parent, I'm like, you're freaking out. Like my youngest son is about to go on a trip down to Florida with the baseball team, and he's one of the drivers, and I'm like freaking out about that. He's 21, but I'm still like, it's like, I mean,
I'm with my son right now. I made him and my daughter. My daughter's 24, my son's 19. I make them add me to your location on your phone, please.
Yeah.
And they're caught off guard. I was like, just please do it.
But I'm joking around about it, but I wonder what we're doing, because I mean, there's always, it goes back to that mindset that we'll talk about with the Save Warriors. I always have the bad things gonna happen. That's how so that's what it is. Because I mean, it ties into two things. Like one, like I know everything that I did and all like the close calls, right? And then like when you did get in trouble, it wasn't like it was today where everybody knew about it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, like you beat a kid up for taking a bike. You're catching a charge or some crap at 10 years old.
It's over.
Yeah. It's like, so there's that thing. And then you just worry about like that next thing. So I mean, that's one of the things that, I wish it, a lot of things I wish that I went to Save Warrior earlier is because I just let up on those things. I was always negatively thinking. So like in my mind, I'm not lying. I'm thinking like if he gets in an accident, he's responsible for all those people's lives and and like, but that's the stuff that my mind, and then I got to be like, hey man, like chill out. He's going to make a good decision.
I do that. I
can't control that.
I do that probably as equally as you do. And I also, I was diagnosed with OCD and generalized anxiety disorder. And a lot of it probably stems from being alone, not being, not having like a safeguard with me at all times, and like dealing with fear and, creating a character out of fear. And I think my whole life I've created this character out of fear. And to build myself to something that I would be afraid of, you know what I mean? Or that would protect me when I was that age. Building your own, basically I call it my, I do talk sometimes for the crisis intervention teams. Adam H brings me in and has me talk to some of their classes, and I call it my my Ironman suit.
Yeah.
I created my own Ironman suit from the first time I was probably moved to that neighborhood. We started realizing that I had to really step up my game if I'm going to get bullied the rest of my life, because there were some ruthless kids around there, that had zero supervision, zero, healthy family environment, way worse than me. Like mine wasn't terrible. Mine was just, I probably preferred something different looking back on it at 48 years. But as a kid, I was like, this is what it is. I don't think this is normal, right? And I mean, what is normal, right? We don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And
everything's normal, but
yeah, sure. Everybody's almost normal. And you always look at other people and think they're doing better than you. And I developed a tremendous imposter syndrome and self-worth. I had very low self-worth.
When do you think that started?
Probably middle school, elementary school. I'd say elementary school. No one's talked about that, brought that up there like that. But like, if for me, that was one of the big things too, is like my demeanor. Like when I say that to people, they're like, no way. Like I do, like I still suffer with like some real low self-esteem. That's one of the reasons, like I'm super hard on myself. Like I'm always, and that started early, right? I think I'd probably say like 13. Yeah. If not younger
13,
for me.
12, 13 years old. Like I was just like, I'm worried about everything you're dressed, and like people, just everything was like, there obviously there was, I didn't want to, upset my mom. Right. Then, didn't want to bring the wrath of my dad on me when that happened, but I didn't want to, and I just didn't want to mess up, and it just kept going and going. And then like, I would, for me, at least I've shared as there was like these high ups and downs, right? My mom loved me really well 1 minute, and the next minute she was making me feel bad. So like you start to believe, I started to believe that really early, that I wasn't, worthy of things that I was doing well. I wasn't doing well enough. And like, yeah, I was the same way, like up until going to Save a Warrior. I was really hard on myself. I would mentally just beat the shit out of myself.
Yeah. Well, you're not afraid to look at yourself. You're not afraid to look at yourself after you go through Saul.
Yeah. But I was looking at myself with the wrong way. Like I had it like every, like we can talk about parts stuff, but like I just had it those, the parts, the bad parts of me, like the manager and the firefighter that were coming out in line all the time. That's who I thought I was, right? I just thought I was this fucking rage, angry person all the time, right? But you start to learn that that's not who you are. You know what I mean? There's these different things are the things you've done. You know what I mean? We could talk about that before. It's like, hey man, like I'm a bad person. You know what I mean? That's what I started to believe. I mean, I was always looking at myself, but I was really looking at myself with no compassion and love. You know what I mean? That's what's changed for me is like now I can, as long as I can love myself, I can truly love everyone else. I can have that love for everyone.
Because you're useless to like the world if you don't care about yourself.
Yeah, I didn't realize it. Yeah, I didn't think about it. I mean, I was, because I think it like limited my like. I've always loved I've always loved people. Right? I really have. I always want to be that person, but it was almost like it wasn't coming to my full feeling because I wasn't loving myself. And I have that. If you can't love yourself, if you can't, and
you got to practice that too. It's not something that just comes naturally. You got to really work hard at it. I remember, like we talked, you said, being younger, I didn't have anyone in my corner except probably my grandfather. He was really, he was keen because, he's a deacon in the Catholic Church. He was 8 kids, like I had an Uncle Kevin who passed when he was a baby, but so 7 of them that I was raised with, but he had a very innate ability to see you and say things to you that mattered. He would do like marriage counseling at his house for folks out of the church. And so his gift of communicating was phenomenal. I think that with me though, I wasn't with him every day. So there wasn't that daily dose of my grandpa. It was, basically disappearing into the neighborhood, hanging out with kids I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with, doing things I shouldn't have been doing, living day to day with a fear response, like something I was going to do that was dangerous or going to get me hurt. You know what I mean? Dealing with people in that neighborhood who, there's some pretty rough dudes in the Hill and the West Side. And I grew up around a bunch of them. And, you never knew when something was going to happen. Somebody's going to get in a fight. Somebody's going to start some stuff. You had no idea. You just go outside to hang out and, here we go. So fight or flight was a huge factor for me. And I remember being scared when I was younger and getting bullied when I was small, like 3rd grade, 4th grade. And I remember stepping out of that going, I don't like this. I'm not getting treated like this anymore. And I knew no one was coming to help me except until I developed the friends I developed growing up. We all really, really protected each other. And, but it wasn't a healthy environment to raise a young man in, you know what I mean? The adult side of it was not happening. It was just a bunch of kids raising kids, and it wasn't just my home. I mean, a lot of my kids' parents were just like mine. Like there was very little engagement. They weren't out there doing things with you. You weren't walking the dogs together. You weren't riding bikes. You weren't, you know what I mean? So you learn from each other and you learn from a lot of mistakes. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes doing really stupid shit. And, but it was exhilarating. It was fun. We enjoyed it. We didn't get caught half the time. If we did, we knew we were getting our ass beat because, my parents they were under corporal punishment. I spanked my kids' butts too, but again, there was no follow-up. Like, so you get your butt whipped. Hey, you don't do that again. Okay. That was it. It's
done. Don't get caught next time.
Next time I won't get caught, And so, it delved off into other things in my youth, alcohol, marijuana, girls, chasing girls around, just trying to be cool. You know what I mean? I wanted to fit in. I was very much a people pleaser because I wanted people to like me. You know what I mean? I wanted everybody to be my friend. I didn't want anybody not like me because it made me nervous. I didn't want to feel like I was alone. Like I had people that were going to be in my corner. And, I did a lot of things growing up that were really stupid, getting in fights in places I shouldn't have, starting things I shouldn't have started, running my mouth to people I shouldn't have been talking to like that. And I've had my ass kicked. You know what I mean? I think everybody has in their life at some point. It's inevitable. If it's not, it's coming. You know what I mean?
I don't know about this generation though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's I feel like, our time, like, you got your ass kicked or
it's over.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Lick your wounds, dude. You know what I mean? Go back outside.
Be careful you say it too, and then
ice your eye and go back out. You know what I mean? So I've had my eye blacked. I've had my teeth, I've had my lips busted. You know what I mean? And you learn to watch your mouth and how you talk to people. And that's one thing I learned about growing up on the West Side was communication is very important. How you talk to people, because you don't know what someone else is going through. And I found that out a couple of times. I smarted off to some dudes that I grew up with hanging out in my neighborhood, and they flipped out on me and I ended up, whipping one of their asses. And at the end of the day, my buddy was like, "Hey man, his mom and dad just got divorced." I was like, "Oh shit. I didn't know. I had no idea, I felt really bad. And I tried to apologize to him, but I don't know if he ever took it. And so this was just before, I think I was in high school then. I was probably 9th or 10th grade. And again, we were all getting into things we shouldn't have been doing, drinking beer, hanging out, running around, acting wild. But, we didn't venture too far. Like, we stayed within the boundaries of that neighborhood. We didn't go places we weren't supposed to be as far as like geographically. I don't know that many places in the city that West Siders can run around and not be noticed. We're kind of a loud group. You know what I mean?
Right.
We kind of carry ourselves a little bit differently, a little bit more, sometimes a little rough around the edges. Like, I could try to refine myself all I want. I can go to Yale and I'm still going to talk like this and look the way I look. You know what I mean? I'm not going to change me. It's just who I am. And so I really enjoyed a lot of my childhood, but also looking back on it is like, it probably is where I developed a lot of my knee-jerk reactions to problems. Mm-hmm. Because my solution to things on the street when I wasn't at home was, let's do it. Or we're fighting, whatever, man, let's do it. We solve problems like that. That is not how you solve problems. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely not how you solve problems. And it almost cost me my career in the Marine Corps because I got in trouble 2 times fighting in the Marine Corps. And the second time around, my major finally gave me office hours, and I had, 2 weeks pay, 2 weeks restriction, 2 weeks extra duty, which was completely humiliating. I had to, cut grass, dandelions with scissors and all that shit. All the stuff you would think the Marine Corps talks about.
Yeah, you don't care about losing rank or money. It's like everybody's seeing you out there.
Man, I'm out there on my knees cutting with scissors. Like, this sucks, and it's sunny. You know what I mean? It's Okinawa, Japan. I'm like, God, it sucks. And I learned my lesson. I had to strip, buff, and wax the deck on the 4th floor of our barracks every day. I had to do it 3 times a day. And my friends, my last incident, I got in a fight and a guy went to the hospital and it became a big mess. I ended up going to jail that night. The MPs came and snatched me up, and I'm sitting in this holding cell. Like, I'm like, how did I get here? What the hell's wrong with you, man? Why can you just ignore that guy? And so my first sergeant comes in, he goes, well, at least you didn't lose. And I'm like, okay. Like, that was the only positive part of that. And he was like, all right, I'm gonna take you back. You stay in the barracks. See you Monday morning. We're gonna meet with the major. Have your uniform on. Look good. I said, okay. And I came in, and man, he let me have it. That major went off. Major Veracruz. I'll never forget this guy. But he was a solid leader. I mean, I can't say anything about Marine officers that I was like, these guys aren't squared away. Mm-hmm. He was a tremendous leader. He more or less guilted me into my behavior than he did angered me. He wasn't really angry at me.
Yeah.
He was like
disappointed,
masculinely disappointed. You know what I mean? And so that really took to me because I've never really had that kind of disappointment laid upon me. Where most people, like, I get in trouble in high school. I got kicked out of high school. I get kicked out of Bishop Reedy, and they had a 2-fight limit too. And so I never really got in trouble for that. Not that I think I'm going to say I was the victim both times, but that's my perspective. You know what I mean? But I probably didn't need to. I could have walked away, but I had that freaking West Side mentality where I'm not walking away. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to run. And that was one thing kids would say, like, if something happened or a kid got jumped at the playground or jumped at the park, well, I didn't run though. It's like, hell yeah, man. You know what I mean? Took an ass whipping. You know what I mean? That was like more honorable than beating someone up at sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's funny because that carried on with me into the Marine Corps. And after my last role, or my friends were all mad at me because I got them in trouble too. The MPs came through the barracks photographing all the beer, and there was a bottle of tequila in there. And that's what the damn tequila I was drinking with my Mexican buddy. And geesh, that shit had me on another level. And this guy, I had no patience for this dude. I ran into him once before in the evening. He came into my roommate's room, knocking over lamps, drunk. We're like, man, get the hell out of here. And like 2 hours later, I see him again in my other buddy's room. He starts throwing his CDs on the floor, acting real disrespectful and indignant. And I wasn't having it, So I said, no, get up, dude. We're doing this. He was like, okay. And so I let him have it. And we all got in trouble for that. The whole platoon did. So, but at the end of the day, our bond was so tight in that unit, like with the platoon I was with, because we were very, very, very rare. We were very fortunate to do that job on the MEU because that's not what we do. Mm-hmm. So what happens if you go to the MEU, if there's a train up for like special operations, 5th Force Reconnaissance Company was responsible for the direct action unit. And we were standing around the company one day, and we were on the infantry side of the engineers. There's other sides of engineering in the Marine Corps. And so we are there for a year. The grunts don't come over but for 6 months. So we were there prior to them being there. And then we had to extend our contract to do this mission with the MEU. We're all like, well, hell yeah, I want to go on a MEU. because we knew what a mute was. We support the mute. You go floating around the Pacific. Sometimes you go to Korea. Sometimes you go to Thailand. Sometimes you go to, Philippines. And so we're like, hell yeah. And so we get on this truck and they're like, they close all the windows, they put on the 5-ton, they lit out all the canvas, and we're driving and driving and driving. And we get out and we're like, all right, everybody hop out, quad over here. And it's like this crazy looking, like I see this like Thunderdome and like this outdoor range and all this ammunition on pallets. And I'm like, what is this? I was like, this is what we're going to do? And they're like, they come out and give the SOTG guys come out and give us this speech, about what our mission is. And if we think we can't do it, get back on the truck. And who's getting back on the truck?
All right.
We're like, we can do that, So it was basically just, close quarters type training. We did a lot of CQB work and then, some patrol work, doing everything out of helicopters. It was sweet. I mean, it was a kid's dream, And so that was what really, I bought that hook, line, and sinker, and I wanted everything to do with it.
So before that part in the Marine Corps, what drove you to the Marine Corps?
Getting out of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I had to, man. I wasn't going to make it.
Why the Marines?
I don't know. I've never known the why. I found out later in my life that I have relatives on my biological father's side that are all Marines. And I was like, that epigenetic memory thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my Uncle Cecil and a couple other family members on his side, they were all Marines. And I remember the first time my Uncle Cecil, we'd always known each other our whole life. And I was like, hey, he's really a Marine. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he was showing me all this stuff and talking to me. He's like talking about my biological father. Like, no, stay away from that dude, man. He's no good. I'm so glad you weren't raised around him. We always worried about you and thought about you. And I was like, well, nobody ever tried to find me. You know what I mean? But it's whatever. And so I spent a couple dinners with them, hanging out with those guys. And, my life at that time was really tumultuous because I was married. I was in a really, really bad marriage. So I was trying to make things connect while my life was falling apart in the background. And it, beneficial or not, I think it was. It really gave me a lot of answers. Because I don't know. You asked me anytime. I don't know why I joined the Marine Corps. I just did. I wanted to do it.
Well, I think you answered honestly. Just to say you got to get out of the neighborhood. I respect that answer.
Yeah, I need to
get
out
answers that a lot of people don't realize that's what it's an escape to get.
And that neighborhood was evolving. Yeah. It was getting so much worse because of crack. There was so much crack popping up back then in the 90s. And the thing was happening was I had friends that I grew up with that were pretty normal guys, and they probably had some pretty bad childhood trauma too, pretty tough upbringings, and these dudes were shooting people, guns were becoming a real thing in that neighborhood. It was wild. Like I remember one of my buddies down the street, he ended up being a local drug dealer, but it's his decision, not mine. We heard a drive-by shooting. We heard those machine gun fire. Like, what the hell was that? And we all go outside and look, and he's down there. There's like a car flipped over on the other side of the road where the dude was part of the driver flipped and crashed, and he's long gone. The police are coming. We're like, what the hell happened? And then another time, same dude, some guy tried to attack him one time on the street, and he had a pistol in his jacket and fired it off in the coat, and he blew his hand off, like the middle of his finger. And this was before I was probably 16 years old. So these are the things I was experiencing, and this is some real for a young person to deal with. And there's no other, there was nowhere for me to go that it was better environment or safer, because I had nowhere to go,
Exactly.
And so as time went on, I had a lot of tough friends, a lot of roughneck dudes I grew up with. And these guys were making similar mistakes, going out, drinking, carrying on at parties, getting in gunfights, shooting at dudes, getting dudes, wounding dudes, sending dudes to the one guy's paralyzed for life out of a guy I grew up with. And it's funny because that same dude, when I was a kid, pulled a gun on me and my buddies and put it to his head and then put it to the ground and fired the gun off. And then the bullet skimmed off my shoe. I still had a mark on my shoe. I felt something. I was like, that was a fucking bullet. Later in life, I'm like, because I saw the mark and I thought, what the hell was that? My shoe was clean before that happened. They took my foot off, So he ran and took off. And then the next day, my buddy brought him over and made him apologize. And I was just like, why'd you do that? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was high and drunk. I don't know. I'm like, dude, get your life together, man. And then about a year later, my other buddy had actually shot him at a party over some nonsense over beer and keg money. So it was just so much nonsense going on around me, man. And I didn't have a way out. My parents didn't have money to send me to college or put me in a different place, or my brothers, so I just sucked it up and kept moving forward, like I've always done, and that's kind of where, I got that attitude of, pretty much F everything. I'm getting the hell out of here. And I did. I turned tail and bounced. I joined the Marine Corps, and I can remember meeting my recruiter, and I was just like, I was still, too cool for school. I was like talking to him like he was, back on the block. He's a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, and he's just like, hey, look, man, you got to watch how you talk to me. And like, I was like, that's like the only male I'd ever had that was like, work on your manners, work on your voice, work on the way you use words. And I was like, yes, staff sergeant. You know what I mean? So it worked. Like I just needed a little bit. I just needed a push. I just needed a little bit, get me in line and start making me look at the world a different way. And so that's when I went join the Marine Corps. And when I went to boot camp's fucking nuts. I mean, I don't care what anybody tells you. I had a blast. I mean, it's tough. It's 13 weeks of, no joy, but at the end of the day, you get home.
Paris Island right now.
Yeah. Okay. I was Paris Island. I was a 3rd Battalion India Company. 3rd Battalion was like notoriously known for like the bad kids. That's where the bad kids got to go. Cause I, come from a broken home, and I already had one criminal charge before I went. I graduated high school. We were going to a graduation party, and my buddy's like, hey, Joey, they called me Joey back then. Hey, go buy some beer at Norton Brandybury. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I go in there because I looked older because I had a mustache, right? Of course.
I get this picture.
Yeah, some West Side kid fucking walking around like he's 20. And I was like 17 or 18. I think I was 17 when I graduated.
The mustache trying to look
older.
Oh
yeah, dude, I did. I rocked that.
They're looking at you like you're
the lady at the desk was like, because it wasn't even for me. Like, I didn't drink this beer, and it was, what's more embarrassing is it was malt liquor. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh God. So I walk up and put it on the counter, and I walk out with my bag. I'm going to the car, and this officer walks up. He pulls his badge out. He's like, sir, do you have ID for that? And I was like, do you have ID? Like, who are you, dude? I already realized I'm probably in trouble, but I'm going to be a smart mouth and get my way out of it. Try to act like a grown up. And did not work out. So we ended up talking about it. And I'd say, like, hey man, I'm going to the Marine Corps in a month or so. And he was like, well, you got a court date you got to go to. And I was like, shit, he really wrote me a ticket. I was just turned 18. And so now I'm like, man, I just killed my shot. Like, I'm devastated because just one simple mistake, one simple mistake almost cost me everything. And so I ended up getting my boot camp date extended to August, which was good because I was supposed to leave in July. Then I had to go to court. The judge was like, get out of here. The prosecutor was like, court fees. I was like, cool, thanks. Yeah. There was like 50 dudes in there.
I'm glad to hear that scam is still going on in Columbus because my son got pinched for that a couple years ago.
So I told
it's the same thing. It's all just
So
all the way through.
The prosecutor's like, you're not going in there. I'll do the talking. You stay out here.
No.
You're still going to the Marine Corps, right? I said, yes, sir. He goes, okay. I said, it depends on today. He goes, don't worry about it. You're still going to the Marine Corps. I was like, okay. My dad actually is the one that took me to court. And so he paid the fine for me. It was like whatever the court fees were. It's like $30 or something, $50. And so I remember I had to go to Cincinnati with my recruiter to meet the XO of the region for recruiting and explain to him why I thought I was, so I had to do like a waiver to get to boot camp and like swear I'd be on probation and no nonsense. And I did. I made it. I graduated. And it was funny going to boot camp because you seen dudes that were showing up in Paris Island that weren't honest about something that happened. Gone.
Yeah.
Gone. Yeah. That day. They showed, where's so-and-so at? Come here. And the MP's like, let's go. And you're like,
where'd he go?
Whoa. And I said, man, that could have been me. You know what I mean? Like, so it was very trying for me because I really was putting a lot on getting out of that neighborhood. And that was that last incident. And this wasn't even a violent incident. This was just a happening. Almost cost me everything, so. And again, when I went in the Marine Corps, a lot of guys I were growing up with, hung out with, they were into selling cocaine and getting in trouble, going to prison. And I was just like, God dang, man, I was right next to all that crap. I could be with these dudes right now, not even doing what they were doing, but just being around them and be indicted, and what they're involved in. I'm like, God love me. I'm very lucky. I was very lucky, very fortunate to get in to find the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps literally saved my life because my self-worth and my self-value was so low because I didn't think I deserved anything. So I was like, well, I want to go do this because I'm my recruiter and the way the Marines carried themselves in the office and going to those Pool E meetings. I was like, I want everything to do with this. This is awesome, man. And so it really helped me push past my fake turtle shell person that I was and helped me come out of my shell more. And they really helped me become like what I would consider being a young man. I wasn't by any means an adult, right?
Yeah, I don't know many who are at 18. When you join the military at 18, it's like
no, I was still a kid. I was very much still a kid.
Yeah, it's always I always look back that it's an officer, so it's like you get in there and like I'm like 22 years old.
Yeah,
and like
it was crazy.
I don't even know. I don't even, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and then, you got to worry about the 17, 18-year-olds or whatever. And then you got guys that are 40 years. It's like, it's just
yeah. And it was crazy too. Cause when I made sergeant, I got really close with my lieutenants because they were the same age as me almost. And they're like, hey, because I already been in 4 years at that point. They're like, talking to me about things, and they would listen, and, we'd work together and make plans and do training. But at the end of the day, they made the final decision.
Yeah.
But it was neat to have another person in my age group reach out to me for advice or my opinion on something we were about to do training wise or deployment wise, So very good time. I only had a couple really traumatic incidents in the Marine Corps that, set with me for the rest of the time I was there. I didn't go to combat. I wasn't in Iraq or Afghanistan. I was in peacetime.
So, being that, did that bother you once, you got out before 9/11? Did that ever, get to you a little bit?
Yeah. I wanted to go back in, and my daughter was being born. Okay. And then I was like, man, because my MOS, engineers, we don't always survive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We do a lot of stuff with explosives. And so I was kind of conflicted because I was already on the police department by that time. I was almost completed with my inactive reserve time. I joined the police department in 2000. I got out of the Marine Corps in 99. I remember you and Shane talking about the hiring process. That wasn't my story, man. I took the test in like January, and I was in the academy by June. It was crazy.
It's just Shane wasn't as good a candidate.
I don't know. I think it was just like a spot came open, and they're like, snatch that kid. Yeah. Because I had already applied for like 10 other police departments.
We know right where we're sending him to the west side too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But no, so go back to Marine Corps days. You did 4 years, one enlistment, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Like when did you realize it wasn't for you that you wanted?
Oh man, I was immature. I threw a childish fit. We got back from Haiti, and I was pursuing a spot at EOD school because I worked with EOD guys a bunch when I was on that Direct Action Platoon. Those guys were stellar, man. They were just the smartest guys I'd ever been around. They were hard workers, hard chargers. They did all the CQB stuff with us and everything. And their knowledge of explosive work was phenomenal, and they can save lives. Mm-hmm. But those guys can see something and say, we got to go. We can't deal with that. And you're like, oh, where it's like you think in the movies, they're like, let me sneak up and clip it. No, they're like, no, man, get the fuck out of here.
The blue wire.
Wire. There's no such thing. If it's not your explosive, don't touch it. And I did a lot of explosive work in engineers as well. And I always taught guys, like, if you didn't build that, don't touch that. Just blow it up in place. Set some TNT behind that thing and move.
I do love that in the movies, though.
It's insanity.
Like the bomb makers going to make everything. This is the wire.
Negative.
It always makes me laugh when you're doing that.
That is not what happens.
Then you look at this TV and it's like 120, and then you watch on the movie, it's like 17 minutes later. It's still
you can't run fast enough with a minute left. You can't run far enough.
Yeah,
I did a training package for the infantry squad leader course when I was in Okinawa. Me and another Lance Corporal, my buddy Chadwick Mazik, he's from Trinidad, and we got selected to go run this course for the infantry guys. And so we had a blast. We got to make our own curriculum. We set it up, similar to what engineer school was like, but we made it a little bit more advanced for them. And lucky for us, we had the experience with those EOD guys, and we knew how to do some tricky stuff. And so we were showing these guys crazy shit, and they were like, man, you guys are awesome. We didn't know you guys could do all this. And we're like, well, a lot of us can't, but we can.
We just made this up.
We know how to do this. And so we were making like our own booby traps, our own Claymore mines,
Shane said you're a liar about getting that quick.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, like he posted up there. He's like, liar.
Oh yeah, whatever.
So he's like still not thunder there. We won't look up there yet. So
yeah, he said, "I'm gonna talk when you talk." That was a funny story right there.
Yeah,
I'll talk when you talk. So a funny situation. Shane and I were partners too for a long time.
So Josh, we're going to jump ahead, but Shane wanted me to throw this on you. So, bring up what I told you, Josh. So he said there's a story behind.
Oh yeah, that's a funny story. We were working plainclothes. We were part of something called Midwatch Special. My friend Andy Starner and I had created this little plainclothes unit for our Midwatch unit for patrol. It was strictly for patrol. We only worked for patrol. That's it. And we had to do what we had to do. Our responsibilities were crime pattern advisories. We go check like theft rings and burglary areas, and if we didn't see anything, we could run loose and do what we want. So we had friends in SWAT who would give us warrants and say, "Hey guys, we're not going to work these. Do you want them?" We're like, "Hell yeah!" So we would use all of our systems and stuff and go out at night and find guys and lock them up. And one night, Shane and I were working we were trying to catch this serial robber. This guy kept robbing the EDF, right? And we're tucked away, on the street. It's actually my street on Ogden Avenue where I grew up. And we're watching this. I think it was a EDF or a Dairy Mart right at Ogden and Broad. Can't remember what it was called back then. And we're watching this guy come down the stairs from the side building, those metal stairs. He walk around. He matched the description perfectly. Bald, male, white, 6 foot or whatever. And we're like, oh, that's got to be that dude, man. And so we're in that car, and the plane car was like a little crappy, like Mustang. You remember those like Fox bodies, but they weren't the V8. Those little shitty 4-cylinder or something. And it looked like crap too. They had flake ass hubcaps we put on it. It was a mess. It fit right in. And so I knew this trick from my other partner, Steve Redding. He taught me to leave it in neutral So you don't have to put it all the way in park and all those lights come on and just tap reverse right back. So you don't see the reverse lights come on or the brake lights. So I see he's coming up, like, we better back up a little bit. I think he's looking over here. So I hitting the gear shift, like reverse neutral. And we're like, boom. And I was like, oh shit. And I look and he's like, what'd you, and he starts laughing. He's not even concerned. He just starts cracking up. I'm like, dude, I think we hit that car. He was like, you think? And so I was like, kind of played it off because it was loud, you know. And my other buddy, Joel Huffman, he's a guy I grew up with, one of the Huffman family. He's an officer, and he was like our one of our stop cars. He was with us as patrol to hit this guy. And I just like, dude, we got to drive away. So it makes so much noise, you know what I mean? And so I'm driving away, and I'm like, is it damaged? Because I got to call my sergeant, you know. And I'm like, God, dude, I think we. So we got the dude didn't leave the parking lot. He didn't pay no mind to us. So we're like, well, let's go back around the again. And so, but while that's going on, Huffman's back there in tears, laughing because he saw what we did. He saw me take off. So it looked like a fucking hip skip, you know what I mean? But it was actually a tactical decision not to get, you know what I mean? So we come back around and we look at the car and it's completely fine. Our car's fine. Like, yeah, no damage, you know? But I was telling these guys, like, that car's been sitting there since I was a kid. It was this red Pontiac Sunfire. And it'd been sitting there for like 2 decades, you know what I mean? And like it sat there for a few more years afterwards. So that was always a funny story for us.
That's that
car. It looked just like that. Except it was covered in leaves and dirt. You know how the street sweepers go around. It's got like a pile of sand underneath of it. No, it was funny. So I called my sergeant. He's like, all right, I'll come out and look at it. He's like, there's no damage. He goes, this car doesn't register here. I don't know who the owner is. I'm like, all right, well, we're good, you know. And so we moved on. We kept working. We ended up making an app on that guy. I think probably a week or two later. And it wasn't even that guy. It was a different dude. So we were on the right path, but we didn't have the right dude. Anyways, moving on. And so, you know, that's one of the nights. And so we had a lot of fun on patrol. And working that neighborhood for me was intrinsic because I knew everything. I knew all the streets. I knew all the run paths. I knew where kids would hide. I knew everything. You know, I knew who all the bad people were, the people that my friends and I did not like, the community did not like. So it was easy for me to work that neighborhood. Right. It was like, did you ever lock your friends up? I'm like, no, my friends weren't criminals. Yeah. All my criminal friends were already in prison. You know what I mean?
So, all the ones that are bad, they're in prison.
So I just had
should have been with them.
My friends' families that were reaching out, like, hey, this is going on. So I was a good source of. They were a great source of information, and I could use, you know, my obviously my law enforcement side to help make their lives a little easier. You know what I mean? Right.
So before we get deep into Shane put that up. I thought we'd give a hard time about that. I promise I put that up.
It's a funny story.
We found he found the picture and sent it to me, and I'm like, I almost forgot yesterday. I'm like, oh god, I got to put the
he drops that on me all the time. He'd be like, yeah, right. And he'll send a picture of that. I'm like, ooh.
So back to the Marine Corps stuff. So you said you had a little incident, decided to not make it a career.
We got back from Haiti, and I was hoping to go to EOD school, and I'm talking to the career planner about it, and he's like, your record book got flagged for recruiting duty. And I'm like, what? Yeah, headquarters of Marine Corps, their screening team or whatever. And I'm like, recruiting duty? I don't want to do that. I've done that before. I've done that recruiter assistance. That's miserable. Mm. That is a miserable life. Some guys, they're stellar at it. It's terrifying for a Marine sergeant, because if you screw up in recruiting duty, your career's over. Yeah. If you're not a good recruiter, you don't put up numbers.
I think that's everybody, really. I mean,
I don't know. I just know the Marine Corps is a big deal. And we had guys that would, you know, there was a guy that took his life on an LZ in Camp Lejeune. Recruiter, he didn't make his numbers, and he was getting red flagged to get out, and Harry carried himself with a NCO sword. You know, fell on a sword on the LZ.
That's some tough shit right there.
Yeah, and that's how, you know, some guys, their identity is so ingrained in that world, and they require it. Like, you can't be good in the Marine Corps and not give it all to the Marine Corps. Yeah. You got to give everything you got.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that too. Cause it becomes your purpose, right? That was the whole, you know, it's your job, but I think it becomes more of like, your identity, your purpose, you're like wrapped around
completely. So, and I never got, I still have I still can't shake it. Yeah. You know? So that's why
I think you found some other stuff. We could talk about that, but I just, so getting out, what was the hardest part about getting out for you? Was it, you know, losing the friends, losing your job, losing your identity as a Marine? Like, what do you think was hard? Yeah.
All of it.
The trifecta.
As soon as I got home, I regretted it. Yeah. I was like, I fucked up. As soon as I got back to the West Side, I moved back in with my dad. Big fucking mistake. You know, I was.
So your real dad or your?
No, I don't know my real dad. Okay. I would never spend time with him. He's a massive drug addict and con man. He's like a professional con artist. You know what I mean? in and out of prison and whatnot. Multiple children, probably around Ohio. You know, he's there. When I would get him locked up, when we'd locked onto him, it was always for child support warrants or drug possession. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, coming home, and then a lot of my friends were gone to college that were my actual friends, or doing something else, you know, more productive. And so I'm back where I started, going, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Why are you back here? You know, I could have stayed in Carolina and toughed it out for 4 more years and seen what happened, you know, whatever. But I also was like, I don't want to be a fucking recruiter either. And then as I went on, as my months went on, I was home because I got a job as soon as I got home. I didn't wait. I was on terminal leave for like 3 months, but I got a job at a warehouse as soon as I got out. The catch to that was I was running our company supply when I was with 8th Engineers. So I was with Charlie Company, and we had our own supply because we're an engineering unit. We have so much stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I was voluntold to do that when I made corporal. And then when I was sergeant, I became the full-time guy. I was like, oh, this sucks, because they knew I was good at it. Mm-hmm. I got myself trained because I don't know anything about supply. That's a whole MOS in the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. So I made, as I do, I network and make friends. And I got the supply guys at battalion to teach me how to do what my job is. And apparently no one before me was doing it correctly. So as my new captain and I were going through the inventory, he was like, dude, this is bad. And I'm like, what does this mean? He's like, we could go to fucking jail. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, we have tons of unaccountable gear. I'm like, what do we do? Like, it was lost on deployment. And I'm like, I don't know. You know, I just gotten there from Okinawa. I didn't know a lot, you know, I didn't do any of that kind of stuff in Okinawa. And so, you know, here comes anxiety and panic mode. Like, I'm up all night long going through inventories. I've got platoons down there with me till 10 o'clock at night, going through all their kits and going through all the minefield kits and stuff like that. And trying to find just like maybe 5 items missing out of a kit. You're like, where's that? Nobody knows. That's not an answer.
Yeah, people, if you've never been in the military and understand the inventory process, it's the craziest.
It's crazy.
It's the craziest thing you've ever.
It will send you to prison before anything happens.
Yeah, it's the crazy part is when how they do it. Like, everything's laid out. Like, they don't really. But when I was there, it's like a manual. You hope you have the right manual, right? Remember, it was like,
yeah,
it's not outdated or something.
Oh yeah,
and then you got to lay out everything, and then looking at like measuring like a 7-inch flat tip screwdriver. And like, you look at it and like some guy, if it wasn't 7 inches, like, oh, that's 6, that doesn't count. And you're like,
and my ADHD ass was like trying to pay attention to my own thing. I'm like, did I count that one yet? Hey guys, put the counted ones here. And I get back like, which one were the counted ones? Did I say that? I don't remember. You know, you're exhausted because you're down there 7 days a week thing and keeping that thing up and running. Yeah. But we got it squared away. We did. It took us about 2 months. And we got that place looking immaculate. I mean, we were running shot backs in there. I mean, no dust. You know, all Lejeune, it's all sand and swamp stuff. So our company supply looked amazing. I repainted all the toolboxes. You know, you get the yellow TAM numbers. You put on them the serial numbers for each kit. And I actually ended up saving the Marine Corps a ton of money. I started buying things from Lowe's. I got the battalion credit card, which I didn't know was a thing. And I remember going to Battalion Supply, turning in all these order forms to they had a captain. She was a female. She goes, "What? How do you lose all this gear?" I'm like, "Well, we also supply other units that are deploying, and then sometimes it doesn't come back." And she's like, "You know, you can go. We have a battalion credit card. You can go out and buy these things." I was like, "I didn't know that." And I go out there and I'm looking at these like hammers and skill saws and all, way cheaper than what the Marine Corps was paying DCSC to order these things. And like, there was like these crappy wooden handled hammers with a little black head. You know, those are $30. I'm getting E-swing hammers for like $17 out in town that lasted multiple, you know, deployments and whatnot. So I got that pulled off. I got a hold of the Snap-on dudes over at Motor T. And I was like, "Could you guys want to take a look at some of my gear, see if you have this stuff?" They're like, "Yeah, we'll look." I'm like, "Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. We can do that." And I'm like, "Sweet." So my chain of command was like, "Absolutely." You know, if they promise they're going to deliver, I'm like, they're at Motor T every day. They're always on the property. So I got that worked out. And then the downside of that job was I was also responsible for embark and debark. So I had to make sure everybody's gear was set before they deployed, and I make sure it all came back, and I had to be with it. So we went to Haiti. We had a really big workup for that. We took a ton of gear down there. We were basically going to do a building schoolhouses on a French missionary site that the embassy had blessed us that we're going to go do. None of us knew how to do construction except maybe 5 guys that had done it prior to the Corps. So we had to go all these classes out of Coastal Carolina would come and teach us how to lay block and do concrete and all this crap. And we had utilities guys, the plumbers and electricians that were in the Marine Corps. They were supporting us. And so we got all that stuff down there. And I remember like I would take unnecessary items out. I would hide like dumbbells and barbells and, plates and stuff in the gear. And like, I'd take all the nonsense out of the Humvees that we didn't need. I'd pack it with 45-pound plates, and the Air Force guys would come to pick up our pallets and they'd get our equipment. Like, these things are kind of heavy. I was like, well, it extra stuff. We need it. And they're like, oh, okay. No one ever questioned it. My captain was like, nice. You know what I mean? And so I checked that all out from MWR, Marine Welfare and Recreation. And they let me sign it out. I told them I was taking it to Haiti. Like, yeah, okay. No questions asked. Like, that's sweet. So I'm just taking this to another country. So we were down there like 4 or 5 months. And the stipulation was we were there as long as it took to get the job done. So we worked 6 days a week, like sun up to sundown. And, that was a really trying time because Haiti's nuts anyways. Guys popping off shots at us once in a while at the main base. So we stayed out in the field the whole time. We didn't stay on the main side of where the UN base was. And, we had a lot of run-ins out there with some of the Haitians. Our biggest problem was the priest that ran the missionary. He was a nut. This French dude, he was insane. I'd never seen such a crazy person in charge of children in my life. If Haitians would walk down his fake driveway that he said was his, it was just a dirt road in Haiti, he would come out with a double-barrel shotgun and fire it off at him. You got 40, 50 Marines over here with weapons. We got our saw, we got our 240 Golfs. We're loaded up we're loaded for bear. Then this dude's doing crap like that. So we ended up taking charge of him and getting that taken care of. And my captain and I handled that. And then we had another incident where the village came at us. Like, there's probably 100 of them. And we ended up finding out that one of our security element, which was at the time an Army unit, I'm not going to name them. It's not important. One of their soldiers was on sentry duty and was peeing in a water bottle, was given to one of the kids. We didn't know that, right? Well, this crowd comes up with, their machetes and all the weapons they could come up with, and they're walking right at us and they're screaming and carrying on. And we're like, thank God I had a Marine in my unit that was Haitian. And I also had my captain who was from Switzerland. He spoke French. So we ended up trying to make contact with him. And I had Baker with me, who's a amazing Marine. He's back in Haiti now. He runs a really high-end security company there. He was able to communicate, and we ended up figuring out what the problem was. And I went back to the Army and I said, hey, man, they're saying this happened. And a lot of these, it was nice because a lot of their NCOs were Rangers because these guys hadn't deployed in so long, since like Desert Storm, I think it was, or maybe Somalia. I don't remember. So it was nice having those guys. They're like, oh, we're at the bottom of this. And we found out who it was. Ended up arrested. He was basically arrested and taken back to the main side UN base. He was court-martialed there, and he went back to Bragg, and I think the break from there, Fort Leavenworth. Human rights. Yeah, it's horrible. And so that was almost we were in our fighting holes, like we're weapons out. Getting ready. I'm like, I am not killing these people for. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you're like, this is not good, guys. And so thank God we had the gift of negotiation, and we were polite and professional. And they agreed to, let us handle it. And we did. And they were very thankful. After that, we never had an incident with them again. They're actually really nice to us. The Haitians were initially not, you driving around, they want to throw shit at you in the Humvee and whatnot. But we did see some wild stuff down there that was crazy. The street fights and whatnot. They'd have like rock wars. They'd like throw rocks back and forth at a distance to each other. And if you did not have your helmet or flak jacket on, you were probably going to get killed by one of those rocks, because they could throw them with sniper precision. And they were like baseball-sized rocks, man. And they'd see us and they'd stop.
The sniper people.
No, they would, man. They'd see us and they'd stop and they'd look at us, put their hands down, and we'd be guns out, like, good,
It just made me realize I haven't thought about it in a while time. But when I was in Afghanistan, the food was some of the food would expire, so we would take the stuff out there because food, they wouldn't serve it, but it was these strawberry bagels, the shelf life stuff. So we just we're gonna take them out to them. And we're not talking like 3 months. They're not bad. They could be, but they just can't serve them in the dining facility. So we had a LMTV full of these, and all the soldiers was like, oh yeah, I'm like, dude, if you want 30 of them, I don't, just take them. Who cares? So we take them out there, we start giving them to them, and like they're opening them and like biting into these things, and they're like, you could just see they're not digging. Like, I don't think they've ever had a strawberry
sugar
bagel or whatever. And they're just like, they're spitting it out, and like people, and there's thousands of these, right? So it immediately turns into a food fight with them throwing these, they're throwing the kids. It starts with the kids, and it's all fun and games, and they're throwing bagels at everybody. And then then it starts where they're, throwing them at us and stuff. And I just remember guys getting so each someone's like, I'm going to like mow people down if I get hit with another bagel. I'm like, dude, no,
remember
you're not.
Just
chill out. But he's like, look at them. They can't even appreciate what we're giving to them. I'm like, dude,
we got talked to about that, because we were giving the kids we didn't like these sandwiches we get. Like we had like DBR food for breakfast and dinner. They transported out to us in those big vats, You'd have, eggs and whatnot and bacon and sausage. In the evening, we'd have like steak and whatever chicken, whatever they give us. It was always good food. Panamanian chefs made it. And then for lunch, we had to eat those box lunches with it's got a sandwich, like an egg, an apple and then some chips. That was our lunch. And we were all like, fuck that. I can't eat that, man. Because we all were actually still PTing while we were down there. We were all staying pretty healthy, working out. We would run at night inside our perimeter. We made like a big 6-strand, concertina wire fence around our stuff. We had towers. We had makeshift big barriers that people couldn't drive a car through that we built. And so we were giving those kids that food, and we didn't realize the problems we were causing.
Yeah.
We're getting those kids this ass beat.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like that's some things you learn real quick is you can't give.
No, bad call.
Like if I'm,
because we.
I remember one time I had gum. I'd always have like a bunch of gum, like the packs of gum, and then also like markers.
Yeah.
Like you get so you'd find a little kid and you'd be like, here you go, give it to them. It's like they went around and give it to them. And they just some of these kids are never like a marker. They're like writing on themselves. But the gum, I remember giving a kid a pack of gum and I'm like, here, this is a few. And like, I just automatically assumed that the kid was like, knew what to do with it. And he takes it and just
no clue.
Starts gnawing on the package. And I'm just like, my God. So I'm like, dude, I like give it to me. So I opened it up. He had to be like 3 years old. Like open up to him and give it to him, like take a piece out and give it to him. And his face was like, the greatest thing he's ever had, you know what I mean? And you're trying to interpret it to like tell him to hide, like to go away. So he just scurries off, man. I'm like, but you have to be careful because if you gave, you would start some bigger kid's gonna take it, or adult will take it. That was what's crazy about it. Like those, we would bring all this stuff to villages, and like the adults would start like taking stuff, and you'd have to be like, hey man, like we're not doing this. Like we'll take it all. We will take it all back. Yep. Because we got told. And I get it. I mean, it's just a different culture. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I don't make them wrong, but it's sure. If you're not ready for it, like we went one time to the village and we brought all this stuff like books and just everything for these guys, the whole village. And we're doing the whole thing. And when I come back, my NCO's like, hey, the village elder has just been screaming and yelling. He's like moved all this shit. Like he moved it where we put it down. There's a lot of stuff. So we're like trying to figure out what he's doing. He basically was telling everybody, look how important he is. This is his stuff. Like they brought this from me, blah blah blah. So like we're the interpreters, like we're going at it, like this guy, and he's fucking piping up to me like, hey, this is my stuff. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, dude, we're gonna come back. We'll come back here, and if this stuff isn't to everybody else, we're taking it all back. And like, you won't get another thing. And so he was just lipping off about, again, it's his to figure out, blah, blah, blah. So I had pens and stuff. So I give it to people too. And I had a pen. So I was giving them to all like the village elders and stuff. They want them. And he comes up to me and the interpreter's like, can I have one? So I was like, yeah, sure. I'll give you one. So I just take it out and I fucking just bend it and break it. Like ink goes like all over my hands and stuff. And I just give it to him. Like, that's what you get. Like, but it was, but that's how it is. I mean, you just had to go back and make sure that,
that's when the whole Baker pulled me aside and he said, hey, Sergeant Riddle, I'll let you know that those kids, they're getting beat up by adults and older kids for those sandwiches. I was like, oh God.
But the thing is, it's not a malicious thing. You just want to help the kids. That's what you think too.
They were sweet kids.
You're trying to do this.
They spoke English actually very well. Because they teach English down. They teach French. They speak Creole and they teach English. And there's a lot of international businesses down there that do like a lot of strip mining. Germans are all over the place down there. And we had another incident almost occur because one of the German contractors who was bringing our concrete in was speaking to the Haitian kids that his employees were like this tall. Yeah. It was little dudes. And that's what they did all day. They didn't go to school. They poured concrete on pads and we'd finish it, and he would speak to them in a whistle. And we're like, that's fucking neat. Like, what is that? Well, the dark green Marines didn't appreciate that. Yeah. And one of my best buddies, Eric Davis, he's now I think probably a colonel or general in the Marine Corps. He went MESEP right before I got out, and he was like, "Why the fuck does he keep talking to those kids like that?" And I'm like, "I don't know, dude. I don't know what it is." And so I had a couple other guys, like I had some guys from Trinidad and stuff. They were like, "Hey, what's that about?" Because they're thinking like slavery. You know what I mean? They don't appreciate it at all. So we made contact and Baker was like, hey, and he was like, oh, no. He came and talked to us. He goes, they can hear me when I do this. It's a language. And we're like, what? And it's a language. They can, like, the way he whistles the pitches, they're like, and they'll whistle right back, like, but it carries. That's why they're like, instead of him yelling all the time and speaking German, because the kids don't speak German, but they understand that. And he doesn't speak Creole. You know what I mean? So But yeah, we had a few close calls down there. We had an incident where we were driving past Aristide's mansion, and some of these we thought they were some kind of militia dudes. We were like, what the fuck? So we're aiming back at them, and they're getting close, and a small thing occurred, and come to find out they were police officers and they were on shift change.
Whoops.
Just timing, you know what I mean? So we got 2 Humvees. We never traveled without all of our weapons and all of our gear on. And we didn't always travel though. We were only allowed to go back to the main base on Saturdays. That was it, Saturday night. And then we were allowed to go to the UN side to have beer. And then we come back Sunday morning. Everybody's massively hungover. Thankfully, we had air conditioned hooches on the main side, and we'd go get in the hot ass showers because there was no cold water on the base. And we'd sober up and go back out Monday and do it again. We did that 6 days straight. And that was pretty much the whole deployment. Just the challenges of logistics and communication was there. And, keeping up with some of the contractors that we were using, the French contractors and German contractors and the Haitian contractors that would come. And it's a culture difference, man. Like some of these dudes would walk up, 2 pistols on them. You're like, hey, who the fuck are you? And you know what I mean? Like, this is how they travel because they don't want to get hijacked, because it's still very much a thing down there. Like when you see all this barbecue and whatnot in Haiti, these gangs, that's real. That's been going on for a very long time. It's just prevalent now because of all the, the media coverage. Yeah. The media doesn't always cover Haiti. Haiti's always got something going on that's terrible. So it's just a culture that they get brutalized, man.
So a lot going on here. We're I keep looking at my watch. Don't think it's because you're boring me. You know why? I'm 4 minutes away from being able to drink something. So.
I love it. I love it, man.
I'm sitting there struggling.
Oh yeah, buddy.
It's been the longest 15 minutes I got to stop looking at my watch. But yeah. So you said you came back to the Hilltop. You're working in a warehouse.
Yeah.
You've had so. You get on the police department, and we can talk about that or not, but I'd rather talk about some other stuff. But so when did you think you started feeling like that whole, the childhood trauma, I didn't recognize the Marine Corps stuff, the work stuff. When did it start getting too much for 2020 for you? That late, huh?
Because I dealt with so much nonsense in my life that this was all very normal to me.
What were you doing to numb for it?
Alcohol, gym, fight training, boxing, grappling, jiu-jitsu, powerlifting. I was a competitive powerlifter for a long time. That's how I got my 2 fake shoulders and my back fusion and my neck disc replacement, So I did a lot of things to cope that were some healthy, but also to the extent that it was unhealthy because I was going so extreme at things. Right. I was doing like the extreme thing. And so it was like I'd work my ass off at work, shift, working the west side, working Hilltop, working the bottoms. I primarily worked the bottoms in my first part of the career, but you go all over the place in the west side because we're so short staffed. There's not a lot of officers for the amount of people that live there. And there's always so much happening all the time. And so my coping mechanisms were things like, obviously weightlifting, because that's something I'd done since I was little. Like when I'd get out of my house and I can go to the Y and work out, that's what I would do. Mm-hmm. I would not hang out with people. I would not miss a workout to hang out with people in the neighborhood because I always had a better version of myself in my head. And I was always chasing that. And it was based on basically Conan and Arnold Schwarzenegger, seeing those movies and playing with like He-Man dolls. Yeah. You know what I mean? Those muscle up dudes. I was like, I want to be like that, And so I would, as a kid, completely unsupervised. I didn't know what I was doing in the gym, but I would be in there, we'd bench every day. You know what I mean? Those guys, we'd curl every day, all the horrible things to do. And that was a thing in my neighborhood. Like all the males, we all lifted weights in garages and shit. And then it's kind of like prison gyms, And so like the YMCA for me was a great way to escape that and stay away from nonsense for, a couple hours a day. And all my buddies would go there and play basketball, and a lot of them would work out too. And they'd go into Holton Park, and they had a little gym in there we'd all work out at. And then it was all machismo shit. It wasn't for health or fitness. Yeah. It was just tough guy shit. You know what I mean? It didn't have a lot of meaning.
So you say 20, but like looking back, do you know when it was really starting to affect you? When you,
mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, I think after, I was in a shooting in 2004. Had a guy who was doing a bunch of armed robberies on Sullivan Avenue up and down Harrisburg Pike, and I ended up running into him on Sullivan, catching up with him, and he parked in front of some lady's house over by Bishop Reedy High School, steps out with a pistol, points it at me, but what he didn't know is I'd already stepped way out. I flanked way left on him. He was looking at my spotlight, and I'm out here by this bush, and I start to say something, and he points the gun up, so I just start firing, I think I was going to get ready to say, like, drop the gun. I think I was yelling everything. I could yell everything I could yell. And he was focused on my spotlight, which was good. So I opened fire on him. He takes off running. And I'm like, well, that's not supposed to happen. You know what I mean? In training, they drop. So he starts running. He's still got the gun with him. He's got something else in his arm. I don't know what it is. It ended up being a cash register drawer. And so my partner, my buddy Brian Carter, comes around and he's flying up. He sees him running with the gun. So Brian hits him with the cruiser and sends him flying through the air. This dude lands on his feet, looks back at us, and points the gun at us again. It was the craziest thing I ever saw. I was like, not a human. I'm thinking, that's meth. And so, he turned the corner in the back of the house. Lights were pitch black. We couldn't see anything. My guns at the time, these were these old 45s that didn't have light on them. And so, you had to have your mag light. Well, my mag light's sitting in my car, and I still got to keep this guy in sight. So we're trying to move in on him, and we can't hear anything. And then also we hear his fences jingling, like he's jumping fences, his chain link fences. So we start working our way back, and a couple people come out of the back of their houses. They're distracting. We're like, get back inside, because we're worried about them now. Like, hey, there's a guy here with a gun. Get in the house, And he probably did 5 or 6 robberies in about an hour window. He was working. And so we ended up catching up with him and a few other of my friends. We picked up a blood trail because Brian had fired some shots too when he got out of the car. And so we picked up a blood trail, and we ended up finding him hiding in these bushes, and he was butt naked. He took all his clothes off. Like, what the hell? So we're trying to get him handcuffed. He's all slippery and slimy from the blood. And he's like, I didn't know anything, all the innocence and stuff like that. And he's, I don't have a gun. I don't have a gun. He didn't, dude. He had no gun nowhere near him. I'm like, oh, great. So we're like, we got to find it. So we tracked his clothing back, and we ended up finding the gun on the path he was running. The thing, it still had everything on it. I think his blood and DNA were on it and everything. So it wasn't an issue of the shooting was fine. And he went to prison. He ended up surviving that, and he went to prison for like 7 or 9 years. Well, it wasn't for like a few years after, like a couple years later, I was just like starting to have these the dreams and the paranoid feelings that when I'm at home. When I'm at work, I'm fine because I got all my stuff on. But when I'm home, it's my safe place. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like worried because his parents didn't live far from me. He didn't behave the way his family behaved. He was kind of like the black sheep, the criminal. None of the rest of them were really like that at all. And so that was one thing that really stuck with me for a while. I didn't realize it was bothering me as much. And so those were the sleepless nights, the dreams, things like that. And then other things that would come up was when I was still on active duty in the Marine Corps, stuff I'd seen or something like things like that. Like we were caught in a hurricane once on the ocean. That's absolutely the most terrifying experience I've ever had in my life. I was on an LPH, which is it's called, landing helicopter or whatever, landing pad helicopter ship. Looks like a small aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Ours had a flat bottom. It was for going up the Mekong River. It was built for Vietnam. So we're in the open ocean with that thing. It's like being in a fucking canoe. That thing was taking all the waves, all the swells, everything.
I only laugh because Greg and I were talking about this yesterday. Like, when I would never go on I'm terrified of ships in the water. Like,
I am now.
Like,
now.
Greg was even talking about, we're talking about Greg
absolutely,
about it,
yeah.
but he was talking about, and it was the same thing. I forgot why we even started talking about it.
Like, it is absolutely nuts. Yeah. We had a bunch of people get critically injured. A bunch of people medevaced off the ship once we got clear of the hurricane. We lost 2 helicopters at sea that ripped off the flight deck because they couldn't fit them in the hull, the hangar deck enough. They had the hangar deck pull the helicopters. It was all of our CH-46s and CH-53s that we used on our direct action unit. And we had a bunch of them. And 2 got destroyed inside the hangar deck just from breaking loose and crashing into each other. And then the other 2 were out. We lost at sea. And so it was pretty terrifying. I mean, I can remember I still have dreams about this. It's on occasion at night, pretty often actually. I'll just slide across the floors and hitting the wall. And I sit up in my bed. I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. Jesus H, go back to bed, And so I still struggle with that. And I don't know what to do about it. I just kind of understand that in my dream, I know it's not real. I got to convince myself like, dude, get out of it. And you're like, okay, I'm good. Because I've never felt such a helplessness in my life. I was completely vulnerable and helpless. And, there was no safety factor in our berthing area that we had except for hanging on to shit for dear life. And we had the wherewithal to pass out helmets because we had our gear was right there with us because we had to run up, get on the flight deck and get on helicopters. So we didn't have to travel far to get our gear. And so we did the best we could to protect ourselves, but that was wild. I mean, TVs were like mounted in the walls. Remember those steel frames? They had those tube TVs in the walls, ripping clean out of the walls, just hitting the ground. Glass is shattering around us, metal sliding around us. You're getting cut by glass. It's like, it was stupid. It was it was something else.
And then nobody at the time could tell you they're scared either. That's the other
problem. No, hell no. We were like,
this is cool. Yeah.
Everybody's, we're good. I shit my pants. Nobody needs to know that. You know what I mean? So we also had another incident where we were coming back when these swells were coming up. We were running, it was probably the same damn storm, honestly. And we had just finished a maritime, we were doing like maritime interdiction training on the other ships. We were in our fleet. So we were practicing fast ripping on those ships, sliding down, walking up, taking the superstructure, just walkthroughs. No, we weren't like carrying any ammunition or anything. And we were coming back because the swells were getting so bad, and we were starting to land on the ship, and the ship was rocking, and they dropped that 53 and it started going off the side of the ship. And you never heard a bunch of young men scream so loud. We screamed like girls, man. It was like, ah! And then we hear, they gun that engine. He picks it up and sets it right back down like nothing happened. The crew chief's like, he's like, you guys all right? I'm like, what? Like, no, I'm not all right. Because I thought, you think about all the times that aircraft goes in the water, you're never going to see me again. We're wearing all this armor and crap like that we got on. And so that was another incident. But, it may have seemed more scary than it was to me, but I don't understand how that aircraft works like that. So the pilots, the crew chiefs, like, we got it, Yeah,
no big deal here.
Mm-hmm.
So what, you're Columbus police officer who's already said that. So the Saul has been around in the area in Ohio for quite some time. So when did you first hear about Saul?
It was, I had two friends that had gone, and they could see that I was struggling because I'd, gone through a really bad divorce. I was really financially pretty much destroyed. I was working 7 days a week to make money, like special duty and off duty as much as I could, try to pay my lawyers and pay my bills and pay my mortgage and pay my, pay my child support. And I was just falling apart, and going up into that point, I was still strong enough to keep waking up every day and doing my thing because I cared about my kids so much, but I wasn't part of the equation. Like, I didn't care about myself at all. If I'd have passed away, I'm like, ah.
So were you thinking about suicide at that time?
I don't know if it was necessarily suicide, but I was done with the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't care what happened. If I was gone, I was gone, Peace to me, man, because I definitely was seeking peace back then. And I think with that going right into, because I got divorced in 2015, and it was never good after that either. Their mom and I still don't get along. And so that was very, very destructive for me because, my personal picture of family was already not okay because my parents got divorced and I was like junior, sophomore in high school. And that's when I kind of really shit the bed with like grades and school, and I had to go to night school to graduate, take classes at night. And just to get in the Marine Corps, you know what I mean? Like, I worked hard to get all that done because I wanted to make sure I joined the Marine Corps. And so, and my parents were pretty much devoid. Like, I didn't see them hardly at all. It wasn't much different when they lived together, but at the end of the day, it was like, well, now it's real now, and we didn't even know what was going on. My brothers and I, we had no clue what the hell was happening. They didn't really tell us anything. And I just know that they had a lot of bitter talks, a lot of bitter words, and a lot of yelling and whatnot and carrying on. And it was just a nightmare. And being a kid growing up in that, when you already live in a fucking crazy neighborhood and nowhere safe. Mm-hmm. So I had developed, this fear response to everything, this tough guy thing I had to build, It's completely unhealthy, especially for a young person that age. And I think that's where I kind of got the snap trigger behavior and the attitude where I was like, fuck it, let's do it, whatever, dude, and I carried that with me for a long time, and it was, not beneficial to my life at all. So I was almost happy when it was kind of like really when my major held me accountable for my behavior. I was like, oh, yeah, I got to behave myself. I wasn't a wild ass, and I wasn't an undisciplined Marine. I was subordinate. I'd follow instructions. Everybody has their moments, but at the same time, I still respected the organization and wanted to be a part of it. They didn't come get me. I came and joined them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think basically, like, when I started noticing my downfall was, during my divorce, shortly after, the one thing that really, I'd say saved my life was my wife now, Valerie. Meeting her shortly after my divorce began and was almost final was very instrumental because I was completely hopeless. I was living in despair. I was alone. My kids are gone now, throughout the week. They're at their mom's house half the time, at my house half the time. And it's tough trying to work all that work I was doing, trying to make money, and then still try to spend time with them, which was completely insane. I don't know how I pulled that off. I probably was not the best person at that time. I was probably a complete asshole. And I was probably an asshole prior to that too, because coming home every day was a nightmare for me as well, because I did not get along with my spouse, like at all. Like there was never a good day I can think of. And the reason why we got married is because my daughter was born and I was just dating her at the time. We weren't in a big relationship. And I kind of got bamboozled on some honesty on some behavior. And so now I got a child. I'm like, whoa, but having her was a beautiful catalyst to my life, because it gave me something to like focus on now. And I really enjoyed it. I loved having my daughter. Like the first time I saw her, I was in love instantly. You know what I mean? And so she was always been my like most precious thing. And then my son was born. It was awesome as well. So I was able to withstand that.
I love how you're like, it's okay for your son, but she's my favorite now.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So my son, he's awesome. They're both awesome. I love my kids. So being threatened with losing my daughter and her saying she's going to leave and whatnot and go move places. And I was like, okay. I knew I didn't have custody of her. Like it was just we were not married. We were cohabitating, but we weren't married. So I agreed to marry her, and it just went downhill from there. It was a really bad decision.
So that, you got a shitty, you have a shitty time at home. Like you're having all this stuff that's going on with you. How was it affecting work? Were you still, I
wasn't 100% at work all the time. I wasn't 100% engaged. A lot of times I was dwelling on things that happened before I came to work, because I worked third shift for 17 years. I actually did 23 years on patrol. 17 of those were at night. So I would go to work from fighting with her versus getting up in the morning and going your separate ways and not communicating until you got home. So nothing ever got resolved. So you'd come home, she'd be gone going to work, I'd be going to bed or stay up with the kids if I was babysitting. That we did okay with childcare, but there's not always childcare available. So sometimes I had to stay up and be babysitter, which was brutal. So I'd work basically doubles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sleep like 8 hours, get back to work again. So it was rough, man. It was, what I'd started out with in the police department, this job, I was just exploring it. I wasn't like seeking to be a police officer. I was like thinking, I'll give this a shot for about a year. And if I don't like it, I'll go back to the Marine Corps, because I'd go right back in as a sergeant, or right back in probably to my old unit and go back, start over again.
Right.
And so when my daughter was born, that kind of turned the tides on what my goals were, because my goals were eventually to go back to Ohio State, finish my degree, work to get my commission in the Marine Corps, and go back to the Marine Corps as an officer. And I was like, well, let's just try all sorts. Like I tried all kinds of opportunities. I didn't give anything. I turned over every stone I could that I was qualified to do. I applied for fire departments, sheriff's offices, all these things. I actually got hired by corrections to start. And I was like, oh, I don't want that job. I don't work in fucking prison. And so I was very blessed, because the next Monday, the police department called and said, hey, can you start the academy on da-da-da? I was like, yeah. Like we had 2 people drop out. You're in. I'm like, sweet. Because a lot of people get that call like, oh, I can't. I got this going on. I was like, sure. I'll drop it. I told the corrections, like, nice try. I got to go,
That Shane made it seem like it was way harder.
I think it was.
I'm kidding.
I think it would have been.
I'm just trying to give him a hard time.
I think it would have been how to knock out.
No, it is like at that time. I think everything was like, we're talking about that, how much harder it was to join a lot of these organizations in the past. Now it's not the same, but so like, 2015 things are not going great for you.
No, I got promoted in 2012, and it was shortly after my promotion when everything in my house went kind of wild. Everything went downhill. Alcohol was a big factor. But at the same time, conflict is conflict. If you have someone who's constantly, in conflict with you on everything you do, it's never going to work. Going to the gym, not happy. She was never happy about me exercising or lifting or, doing anything I wanted to do. Going hunting with my buddies once a year. You know what I mean? That was a big deal. So I don't know if it was just basically jealousy or immaturity. I'm not sure. I don't care to investigate it anymore. Yeah, exactly. I'm done with that. I'm at peace with all of that. I've forgiven her. I forgive all the things that occurred. I forgive myself, So, yeah, it was rough, man. It was tough.
So what made you blow up these guys that in the police department that were telling you they need to go? I was just tired of doing things. I was so active in work and just trying to make money and raise my kids. And, I'd been dating my wife at that time for about a year or 2, I think, maybe 3. We'd moved in together. I think we moved in together in 2017. And we were together in the house, which was still there. And she had 4 kids from her prior marriage, and I had my 2. And that is a big, big, big thing, man. Like
blending families like that, not a good idea. It did not work out well. Thankfully, her daughters were older, and one went and stayed with her dad, and one stayed, one ended up graduating and doing, she's fine now. Her oldest daughter never lived with us once, but her youngest daughter's still there with us now, my stepdaughter Carly. And so that was we didn't know what we were doing. We thought we had this great plan, like, they'll be with their dad on this weekend, my kids will be with their mom on this weekend. It won't be they won't interact as much. They'll have their own peace and freedom in their own room, and it didn't work out that way. So her ex-husband was became a heroin addict, and he shut the bed with life, and so the girls were with us all the time. And Val, she struggled with all that and trying to maintain. She's a full-time nurse, and that was tough because her hours are just as crazy as mine. Mm-hmm. That's why it worked out for us, though, because we had crazy schedules. It was like, yeah, it worked great, for us too. But we were the only two in the relationship who it was working out for. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we were kind of selfish at that aspect, but at the same time, I think we kept each other afloat because we didn't have anybody else, Mm-hmm. And with all my bullshit going on with the ex and the kids, and nobody was going to date me, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was nice, and she actually grew up in my neighborhood when I was a kid, so we had kind of the same character, same charisma, same lingo, same wording. So she helped me a lot. And it was actually talking to her about it after I talked to Jimmy and Barry about going to Saul. And she was like, you need to go. I was like, you think so? She's like, yeah, I can see it. You need to go. And I'm like, all right. And what had happened prior to that was suicides. I had a lot of friends committing suicide.
Police officers?
Yeah, okay. Police officers, firefighters, first responders, civilian friends, a lot of things, a lot of hits I kept taking. And it was all unexpected, obviously. You don't know someone's going to do that. And the final one that got me good was my buddy Shane Brittlinger and my buddy Gary Adkins. That one got me. And that's when I was just like, damn, like, what is my life, And so I know when after Gary committed suicide, that's when I realized, like, I'm fucking super vulnerable because he had a family, he had a good career, it was just internal things that no one knew about. His perceptions of life, obviously, were not what I thought they were. And mine weren't good either.
Yeah, mine either. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Me too. Right. Me too.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I am literally going way faster, I think, in the hole than he ever did. And I mean, what's the next step that's going to make me snap? What's the next thing that's going to happen? And that's what I was waiting. What's the next thing that's going to happen?
Yeah. I think that when they look back at that, I've been asking that question. So it's hard to, it just became, like you said, it's like, I didn't care. Like, I mean, it's hard to explain to people. I really didn't want to be around, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just for such a long time. And I mean, it was like, like the world would be better without me. The family would be better. You know what I mean? It was just,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a scary thing to be. And I like that. That's one of the things, that, I have it now. It's so hard to like, I wish you could put a finger on, what's going to make somebody, take that final,
mm-hmm. I didn't have
make that bad decision. But,
I was having physical responses too. Like I was having severe health issues. I had pancreatitis. Yeah. I was getting hives, like all this stuff was happening. This is right around 2020 after being in the riots downtown and being there every day because I was on an arrest team. And that was a fucking nightmare. The whole experience of it was just so bizarre and so counterintuitive to what we do. And I'm like, what is going on? And none of us could really process it. Like, why are these people? What's going on? What did we do to these people?
Yeah.
And with the media and the news and the political side of it all tackings, I felt completely hopeless and helpless. Mm-hmm. I'm like, God, the next thing that happens, one of my buddies is going to get arrested and go to jail. Mm-hmm. Some protester is going to do something dumb, and we're going to react to it. We're going to end up in jail or fired. So that when that all started to kind of calm down, I never did calm down. I was still very, very hypervigilant, very paranoid. I was very internally aggressive. Like I was waiting for something to happen. There was points of time when I was driving around with like weapons in my truck everywhere I went. Like if they come get me, I'm gonna be ready. Like who's coming? But you see all the people getting doxxed and like they're giving up people's addresses and these protesters are showing up. And I'm like, oh, please don't be me because I'm not gonna react the way you think I'm gonna react. You know what I mean? So that's where I was really worried about that, and I was worried about my reaction to people. And so I knew. And then after Gary committed suicide and all things that happened, I was like, I need some fucking help. And so my buddies saw it and they knew that I wasn't the same. Like they could see all my fatigue. I was gaining weight. I was living completely unhealthy. I was drinking every day. I was probably drinking 3 or 4 bourbons a night to sleep. Not because I wanted to be numb, just so I could fucking sleep, And don't get me wrong, I felt good before bed. So I was very numb and I was very comfortable, but the nightmares, of all the things going on, all the cumulative stuff that going on in my life was all coming out, man. And I think that's where I was starting to reach my breaking point. Like I didn't know what to do with my thoughts and emotions or how I was feeling. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know how to handle them. And so I'd never considered like going to counseling because I'm like, I'm not telling these people how I feel. No fucking way. They're going to burn me a duty. You know what I mean? So I went to Save Warrior, and that was a completely unexpected blessing that I did not prepare for, nor did I expect it to go the way it was going to go. Like I was like, I'll just, Val wanted me to do it. And I was like, I loved her so much. I'm like, okay, I did it more because I cared about her than myself, right? Because my self-worth was still probably very low. And it was one of those things where it's like, I'm trying to keep her and keep her happy because I want her to be happy. It's my favorite thing to do is make her happy, make her laugh. And so I wanted to do that. And
yeah, it's funny. Like when I think about that, up until a certain part, I'm not gonna give away the game, but up until a certain part of it, there was the part of me was like, whatever. Like it was kind of like this will give me something like the T-shirt we talked about. Get the T-shirt, it'll be something I can do to just whatever. Oh, yeah. But it fucking, as you know, it hits you. It hits you. Yeah, it hits you hard. So it is crazy, and I that's funny because I can vividly remember there when it became about me. It was like, holy cow, it's okay to worry about just me. You know what I mean? Because I'm the problem, man. Because I'm the problem. You know what I mean?
Me too.
And that was like just blew it open. You know what I mean? But yeah, when I look back at it, I always like to ask that question to the guys because it's like, we all have the same story. I think everybody's always like, I knew I needed to do something. I just for the longest time I just didn't.
Absolutely, and you get that draw, repetitive, that cycle you get into.
Yeah, to me it was like when you talked about earlier, like just beating yourself up. I there's a part of me that was like, I felt like I deserved this, right? So it was like where I was at, how I was feeling. I just felt like I deserved it. So this is just what I got. It's like
and quite frankly, if you said deserved it, that's what my self-image was. Like I'm not supposed to have anything good.
Yeah,
I don't deserve to have anything good. This is just who I am, how I was raised. I've got this story from my childhood. I'm a bastard child. I got all and even growing up, people would look at me differently. Like when I was with my mom at church, like people like,
because mine was too like it was like it's really like I'm honest about it now. I hit it, but like from the outside, like most people didn't see like the anger part of me. The only people saw the anger part of me is like my family. And it was off the chain. Of like I never hit anybody. But it's like you talked about when you talk about your childhood. It was like, and I saw something on the podcast or something about it. Is that like kids at a certain age, like the parents yelling at each other, yelling all the time, is like equivalent to like soldier being in combat.
Yeah, I was like, I think I posted that.
Yeah, that might have been you.
And I was like, that's true.
It might have been you. But
my poor kids are ready. They're ready for war then.
I see all these things now. That's what my feed is. I don't know what where it comes from, but it's all this wisdom of other men or something. But yeah, when you thought, like I thought about that, so like that was going on, and like and then like I knew I was making people so unhappy, right? And like I just didn't feel like I deserved to be happy because I was making other people unhappy. It was just like this vicious cycle that was going on internally. That's what it was. Is I just it's still to this day is like I still have to be careful about. We'll talk about the terms like I'm okay with other stuff except for stuff about me, like my own internal criticism of things is where I start getting really like, I got to be careful about that. That's when I call people right away. Like, man, I got to like talk about this because I'm feeling like everything's going well, but I'm I did something wrong today. Like, especially like when you talk about like when we're starting to get through recovery and transformation of things, like, you fuck up, like, cause that's what it was, is I just felt like I didn't know how to stop it. Like, I didn't know how to like,
no clue.
Like once I fucked up and something like I started yelling or acted like an asshole or something, I had to like, I can't explain to, I just had to go all in. Like, I just couldn't stop, you know what I mean? And then you get to a point where like, I'd be like physically exhausted, like emotionally spent. And then like, and I'm like, how did I get here? Like, over
your level of
this small thing, like, and it was just like, and then I just couldn't figure out how to break that. Like, that was the thing. It was just a cycle. Like I'd do that. Then I'd come down here, I'd be fucking mad at myself. I'd, drink, start drinking bourbon or just, just isolate. And it's just, it's crazy. I was like, so there was like whole time of like, I had it in my mind and I don't know if I've ever said this before, but I was like, I had in my mind that like I just didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? So if I couldn't, I couldn't control that, I didn't deserve to be happy. I deserved what I was getting. I deserved my, kid being pissed at me.
I can't count.
I just deserved it. So it's like that was like when I said it's like when it finally, that point of save a warrior was like, man, it's okay for me to worry about me now. Like I gotta figure out what the fuck is wrong with me because I'm the problem. That was the craziest thing about it, is that's one of the things, we're talking before the podcast is like, I'm the problem of everything in my whole existence in my life. Like it's, I've been blaming people my whole entire life.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like, like everything, like I can, we all can do it and we all still do it, but it's like, it's my problem. It's how I'm dealing with it. Or
it's decisions we made.
Yeah. And it's just how you had it. Like, I mean, it was exhausting. Like I'd be always just fucking blaming somebody else for everything, and
that's why, like, for me, it was hard for me to turn off Marine Corps Sergeant Joe Riddle when I was exposed and raw, because that's how I controlled the world. I controlled everything. Yeah, I had to have control. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
for me, I'm like, I would snap into that role, and talking to two teenage kids that way, and trying to deal with their mom that way, that was absolutely counterproductive.
Yeah, I had like, I don't know, like I don't think I ever like the military part of it. I don't know if I really.
Well, that's what I based my
identity off of. I had the whole, like, I mean, I get it, but I don't know if it was like more where I felt like I was militant to them. I mean, there's the military, like things of like what I, expected things to do, but it was just more like just controlling, like to be. And the other thing is like, like just having to,
because you used to
right
falling apart.
Yeah, I had to be right all the time, and I had to be right all the time. That's one of the things that, like, it's just, it was just, and I can only imagine how exhausting it was. Like, we talk about blaming each other. We had something yesterday with, it's the funniest story, but I'm gonna like pat myself on the back on this because you'll relate to this. Is like, so the free burger at Five Guys, the buy one get one free for their thing. So, my wife was going to like order it, but she was doing some stuff. So I, get on there and I get on the app and I didn't want to do it. First of all, I wanted her to order the stuff. So I'm ordering it. And I actually, unbeknownst to me, order it for the wrong Five Guys. Instead of the one that's a mile from me, I did the one here. So dude, I'm practicing around, but it's like the timing is like working. So I guess I'm already like, I'm excited for this. We like talked about getting Five Guys. She didn't want to do it for like a week. So I'm like, oh God, we're finally getting Five Guys. And so we go to the place, and the place is a shit show. She went in, to get it. And then we're there like 15 minutes, and I'd sent her the confirmation, thing that I got off the app. And all of a sudden she's like, I think we're at the wrong place. Like, I think you ordered at the wrong place. So like, dude,
fucking nuclear.
No, it's crazy. As I was like, I looked at it and I'm like, holy cow, we did like, so I'm like, come out the side because it was raining. I'm like, just come out the side so you don't have to get wet. And we just like, I plug it in, we just start driving. And like, I was totally calm about it.
Yeah. But previously though.
Oh yeah. Like she even said, like, she was like, yeah, she calls
absolutely.
Old Jay.
I would lose my mind.
Yeah, and I would have blamed her. That's what I'm trying to blame. Like, people don't realize how they do it. Like, but I would have been like, well, it's your fault because you were supposed to order it. You made me order it. So this is your fault that I ordered the wrong one because I didn't want to do it. If you would have done it, and then I would just be in this whole fucking like,
it's like the echo narcissism.
Yeah, it would be crazy. And that was so exhausting because like after you act like that, I mean, I'd act like that. Like, I knew I was wrong, but I said, I just had to stay like all in and just be like, and it would just be a crazy thing. So, like, I didn't think about it much until today because I was talking to somebody about it. And and it's hard for, I think if someone's listening, like, I don't really give a shit, but it's important for me to reflect on those things still, to like, be like, oh my God, I acted like a 53-year-old acts. That's because I didn't do that. I could do that in a certain aspect, at work or whatever, but I wasn't doing that at home. I was acting like a lunatic.
Yeah. I was an asshole.
Yeah. Completely. Like it just happened with like, before you guys got here, it was starting to get like some stuff was happening. It was just like, I can feel that urge. Like, I can just walk. I came down here and then take a deep breath and just went up and said, hey, I apologize for, here's where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? I'll just, but 100%. That whole, but yeah, like, how do you, like, people, the only reason I brought up is how do you blame you how did I blame you for putting in, I'm the one who did it. That's exactly what I did. Like, you said you were going to do it. You weren't doing it. You started doing, you started changing the bed, to do that. And you're supposed to do this and you didn't. So you made me do it. So this is your fucking fault. And I'm like, God, that's how my whole life was all the time. And that's how it was on my kids. And it was just like, and I mean, and I mean, Josh is here too. He's always here. I was doing it to like my friends too. I'd blame like everything was everybody else's fault. And that just got to a point of like, it's exhausting, you know? And now I'm just glad that I don't look at that way anymore. It's just like, hey,
you can't to survive.
Yeah. I mean,
to say, it's like I really hang tight to the just save one, theory from Saul, myself. And I have to do the work. I have to hold myself accountable for my bad behaviors, my temper, my anger, my anger drifts, which I really never get now. It's nice. I focus so much on like gratitude and kindness and trying to flood my subconscious with all these new types of thinking, like they teach in Course in Miracles, reversal of thought, I really took that to heart and I do practice it daily. So before going to Warrior Village, everything was everybody else's fault and I was a victim.
Yeah.
I was a victim of my life. I didn't do anything. I was a bastard kid. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. This is why I act this way, Now, my new perspective is I had a lot of opportunities to learn from those bad happenings. So I learned from myself now. I learned from my past. I learned from the people I engage with now, and I'm able to look at people and say, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. Trust me, I did it too. But you can solve that. You can do it through work, but you can't do it by yourself. You got to have a team. You got to have your fellowship. You got to have your Zoom meetings. I was going to counseling as well. Like I would never gone to counseling in my life, just so you know. And so when I got back from Save Warrior, I did EMDR, ETMS. I jumped in on all that crap. And my counselor, she's awesome. Her brother's a Marine and also a CPD officer. I don't know who he is. I never asked her because, I wanted to keep it anonymous for her and him. And she was great. She really, it was about 6 or 7 months maybe 8 months of talking before we ever did some EMDR because she wanted to narrow down like what was triggering me and having these angry emotions. And she did. She figured it out. And we did the therapy a bunch of times. And man, I have not had a response about it since. And the thing is I was open, honest, and willing. I was completely engaged in the process because coming from Warrior Village, I know shit works. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You
don't leave Saul going, this is nonsense. No one leaves that place as heavy as they showed up. You leave about 50 to 60 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I knew that I only had a couple more things I had to deal with and I couldn't figure out what they were. And a lot of it was just regret from, how I fought with my daughter when she was in her late teens and how I neglected kind of like her and my son during my divorce and going to work all the time. Like I didn't want to do any of those things. I just wanted to be with them, which is also an internal struggle of, vengeance thoughts, being angry towards their mother for, all of this nonsense that, she created. Like Wise chose to be there.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are my decisions. I'm the one that made the decisions to be in that environment, so who do I blame? The suspect, me, the narcissist, the echo narcissist who's blaming everybody else for what's happening to him and making it their problem. So taking ownership, and I like when Jocko says that taking extreme ownership of things, it's valid. It's a valid thought.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the big thing of, we, in our community, it's like I always tell people, I'm always trying to look at myself internally now. Like I've lost all this, like my wife's, it hasn't been a great week. And she sent me this thing, like, saying, thank you for being the rock and stuff. It's like right now I'm like, I can understand what she's going through. I can't fix it like I used to be. And I can't hold, like I'm going to be mad at her because she's been in a bad mood and I'm in a good mood. Like all this stuff goes away. Cause now I'm just worried about me. Like what is going on? Like that's really bothering me about her. I mean, it's
I think
crazy.
That's one thing about, for me, meeting a psych nurse was literally like God sent. I knew God's real. Yeah. You know what I mean? I know God is absolutely real.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's funny because I just don't spend a lot of time anymore, like trying to make, I have my time, like I allow myself to get rackety with other Chuck 3 guys. And I'll get it off about something, but it's not that grudge, like, Josh and Nate's over here too. But I mean, these guys just heard me go on and fucking hours and hours about some dude, or it's just it's like there's so much energy now, but it's hard sometimes, like for me at least, it gets hard sometimes when you really are looking at yourself, you know what I mean? And it's, especially being that I blame myself for a lot of the stuff, so it's still like when I don't I'm not the person I want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got to be real quick, like to, you know,
catch that.
Hey, say stop, man. Like just this is,
and
we're all gonna mess up.
It gets easier.
Yeah, the all or nothing thinking.
The more you do it, it gets easier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 2.5 years out, so it's like I feel like it's better, but it's still like I know I'm not going to be like, you know, this is the thing about transformation and recovery. I'm like I'm not the Dalai Lama. I'm still gonna have issues. I'm gonna have a bad day. I'm gonna do something I don't want to do. But
you were never expected. That's our inner narcissist. We're supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
We want to be perfect people pleasers.
Yeah.
And we're never going to be. Yeah. So it's okay to have that. Understand that parts of us are broken and parts of us are wonderful, you know? And so what we can do is we can leave the wonderful side be and let it keep growing and focus on the imperfect side and try to chip away at those edges and make it smooth. You know?
Exactly. I mean, I think the big thing for me is just that, like, I now can stop that, like, you know, something bad here is like, it can have something, it can be bad right now. I can act like I don't want to act. I mean, I can stop it. I don't have to just keep it, like, just take it to this point, this crazy point of.
And a lot of times too is we don't communicate our emotions to people correctly, and that's what I teach my kids now too. Is, you know, what emotion are you feeling? Why do you think you're feeling that emotion? Is it benefiting you? Let's investigate that emotion then. And so, you know, in our era, in our generation, we were not taught to analyze our emotions. So you and I are in a unique group of people in history that was
I think it was hard. I think it's still today. I think everybody is struggling with their real emotions. Like I have, like, you know, you've probably seen one of them. I mean, with the guys you travel with, but you know, for, you know, the code for Codependence Anonymous, there's a feelings wheel, right? There's different things. So, but like that feelings wheel, it's like, it's crazy when you look at what, like, the list of what feelings are, you know what I mean? And I think that's a lot of what people are, you know, we're not used to, like, it's a basic thing, but like, I'm angry. Okay. What are you really angry about? Like that's my thing is it's crazy. I think everybody's walking around, like, not really knowing what they're feeling without even that feelings wheel. Like everybody should look at it and be like, okay, this, like, time, you know, what am I really feeling? What feeling am I having? Because there's, you know, the basic feeling, but like anger. Like when I'm angry, angry. It's either two things. I'm either scared or I'm sad.
Fear, sadness.
Yeah, that's
men express anger.
Yeah, and it
comes from sadness or fear.
Yeah, and then people will be like, oh, that's like, you got to, like, work into what it is. Is like, you know, if I'm angry, you know, like, what am I, you know, fear about? Like, you know, when you come home, like, think about it. You come home from work, like, there's all these things that are happening. You know, like this, you know, Honda made a big announcement today, you know, with some stuff that's going on. Like, there's a fear. Like, what does that look like? I just don't let that.
It pisses you off.
It doesn't let me get the anger of, like, all these kind of things. It's like, okay, but, you know, I don't know if it's just our generation, but
it's also the high pace of our lifestyles.
Yeah, I think I try to, like, also now.
We have so many distractions.
Yeah.
Humans didn't have all this before.
No.
All the flashing lights and noise and phones and TVs and computers to keep us distracted from ourselves. There's so many ways that you can rabbit hole away from yourself. You know, like when Joe Rob talks about, you know, the addictions of, like, porn and internet and all that crap. I mean, that's a great way to escape yourself and say, well, I can go be this thing that makes me feel happy because I don't like how I feel about myself. And generally that's, like, you know, they say there's no such thing as addiction. It's just people, you know, masking their feelings through drugs and alcohol. And once you can get them off find out what their fears are or their trauma is, alcohol and drugs no longer really necessary. Of course, the addiction is real. It's very physical. So they have to go through rehabs and stuff. But if you can if you can pinpoint, and, you know, Brian Eisman talk about this a lot. Like, you know, the first thing we'll say if we're upset with something or something has us in like a flutter, what are you afraid of? Yeah. Find that out first and then look at the situation.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Is I think that's our normal. When you say that's so funny, I can totally relate to that. But I don't think people are doing that outside. And that's the problem. Yeah, and I think that's what it is you got to really, like,
fucking marching around, like, why are you
like that's all these things. You know, like there's a lot of, like, bumper sticker things or something this week that was going on. Is like, you know, we talk about, like, whenever I'm, like, talking to Chuck 3 guys, especially, like, you know, when you're around some guys that are in the organization and doing some things, or you're just, like, talking, like, there's a part of me, like, I don't lie, that, like, my significance comes out and I want to come up with, like, I want to have some Jordan Peterson shit, or like, you know, or like, you know,
I think the
quote I share with you, but these the bumper sticker stuff is what brings me back. When you just say, like, that's what I tell people work about this one. Like, if you spot it, you got it. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, if you're upset with someone, it's because they're doing something that you don't tell. And there's people like, and I'm like, dude, that's what I thought too. Like, if you just keep doing it and, like, think about something, and they're like, and I'm like, man, I'm not going to get into about that, but that's how I zone myself back in. It's like, what am I, like,
Like, that guy's a dick. That guy's got a bad attitude.
Yeah, or like, just the, like, maybe don't make others wrong for being human. Like these little bumper sticker things. And somebody was talking about like another guy in the community is like, I'm getting sick of the bumper sticker shit. And I was just like, and I'm like, but dude, the bumper stickers work for a reason. You remember a bumper sticker you're driving home with right now. Like it serves a purpose, as long as it, like I said before, as long as it takes me back to that, like to like the point of where I got to like, okay, I got to evaluate and I got to look what's going on. And I think that's what's going on with everybody. I mean, that, like, this isn't just a warrior class. It's walking around struggling with not being able to talk about their feelings that are had childhood trauma, that
having
are
the courage to talk about your feelings. That's what things. It's we talk about, the flutter with Saul stepping through the flutter, and like you see what happens, and you come out the other side, and you're like, well, that was a great idea. And that's why when I'm ever nervous about doing something, I go ahead and do it faster.
Yeah.
I come in here, I was nervous about this all week. Then I was like, come Thursday, I'm like, let's go. Let's do this. You know what I mean? Let's talk.
Yeah, we're not going to bite. It'll be good. Yeah. But I think, the whole thing is, you call your inner war. So what did what did the experience teach you about your inner war that you were having? Or you call it inner war. We know it's, a different term, but.
Yeah, mine, with me, I learned that I had a lot to learn, that I didn't know anything, that I'm a nobody. I had this character I'd made for myself with these jobs and these titles and these things I accumulated that made me feel like I was a man, but I wasn't living like a man. I was living like an adult child and having adult child outbursts, having adult child behavior. Things like I would bury my trauma and go to the gym, but not deal with what was bugging me or tell anybody about it, because I didn't want to look like I wasn't tough enough, and that's my whole life story. It's like, I didn't want to look like I was tough enough. So I put myself in situations I was completely uncomfortable with doing, but I would do it just because I didn't want to look like I was weak. And that was my biggest fear in life, is being seen as weak. I'm already like 5'8", 5'9" now with my back implant. So I'm back up to 5'9". Nice. Hell yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about. And so I'm almost tall as you, Che. And so, so for me, looking like a weak person in fear, because I was always scared as a kid, and I didn't know if I had any advocates, because, I was alone a lot, dealing with things that were sometimes terrifying and sometimes very dangerous, like getting in fights and things I'd experienced, guns and the shit going on in my neighborhood, dudes getting stabbed. I mean, I saw a guy hit a guy with an axe one day. I was like 10, riding my bike, and this guy's like, chase this dude down the street, hits him with an axe, and runs off the other direction. This guy's just crawling. I'm like, took off. We're back to my house, parked my bike, went inside. I didn't tell anybody about that. I was like, whew, that was terrifying. You know what I mean? But as a kid, I'm like, damn, that's what's out there. But that's where I always went, because being at home for me really wasn't very exciting or interesting. My parents weren't doing things that I was interested in. I mean, I was the kid that became like, I was a skateboarder, I was a BMXer, I was doing all those other things that were like kind of fringe, that the other kids were playing sports and doing things like that. And I played football and I, stuff like that in middle school and high school. And, but again, that wasn't something that was like breaking me away from my environment. I wasn't good at it. I was very much, I started at my high school, but if you look at my high school football record, I think anybody shut up would have started. So I'm not like, I'm this amazing athlete. I just attended, I was present. And then, I was doing things to help basically mask my fears and doing things that made me look cool or made me feel tough. But at the end of the day, I was still the scared kid that I was a scared kid until I was 45 years old, going through Save a Warrior.
That was a hard thing. It's like, I didn't realize how I was. I love how you put it with the adult child. I mean, whenever I hear that, I'm always like, shit. Like it's just, it's crazy when you think about it. Like, it's almost, it's like I almost don't even have a taste for it anymore. Like when you hear, like, it just makes me like, it really makes me like cringe. Like how I would be like, when like I'd be yelling at my kids. I'd have them lined up about why they'd be telling me they don't want to do something. I'd flip out and like just act like a fool. And then 5 minutes later, my wife would be like, well, do you want to go do this? And I'd be like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm like totally like I'm being like a fucking 8-year-old. Like, I mean, honestly, it was like, it was everything.
Yeah. I was a 245 pound, when I was still competing. I was like 265. I was like a 265 pound 9-year-old. Yeah. Just, disregarding problems.
And I've said it before. Like, I think people like, I mean, it's like, I don't have it that anybody gets through like childhood unscathed, right? Something's happened. Nobody has a perfect. It's better than others. Like, I didn't see people getting axed down like you were, but there's just there's different. There's different, but it's just like but that's the only thing too. Is like, that's the mentality too. Is like, if you hear somebody that grew up tough, like, you can say what you want to say. Like one of the, when you were talking about, fitting in, and it hit me too, is like being an Army brat. One of the big things is why I felt self-conscious. Like I moved into a school, came back from Germany when I was like 5th grade, and all those people, I was the only person there.
Mm-hmm.
Like all those people had known each other for it was a civilian school, so they'd known each other since they were all. And I'm an outsider, like, and so it just. People be like, oh, well, but that stuff really starts to impact you. That's not, you couldn't really you can't walk up and say, I don't fit in. I don't like it here. Like I couldn't do that. I mean,
and I
couldn't say that. I mean, but you just got to
that
start trying to figure it out. But meanwhile, you never felt like you fit in. Like they had the cliques. Like, I had found friends, but there are people that are still like, I see pictures and I don't give a shit about it. But there's people that are like, I graduated in 1990. I mean, you still see people that are hanging out together,
all the time.
And so like you feel like, but I think people start to think like, oh, that's not a big deal. It doesn't have an effect on you. It does. It starts to really like, okay. And then, you go to, you go to military school, you just keep moving. You're moving yourself. You're always trying to find, you're trying to fit in.
Find something.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
it's
like, it's those things. I just have it.
I think I was pretty lucky at the end of that, because I had a really good core group of friends from my neighborhood that I ended up graduating, and we're all still friends to this day. We don't see each other because we have families and kids and careers, but I was pretty lucky. Like, Dan Huffman, Brian Hutchison, John Farley, guys like that, Jimmy Groves. And so I had a good group of guys in my corner, and we all would stick up for each other. We would defend each other in public and etc. But that still wasn't that lifestyle in that neighborhood was not gonna. I wasn't gonna survive. Something was gonna happen.
Yeah, it was. The whole thing about me too was interesting, because it was almost when I moved here in 2014, it was one of the reasons why I didn't want to move my boys. Like that was the one thing. The only reason I didn't want to leave is because, like, oh my gosh, from their young childhood, they're like they know everybody, right? I'm just gonna rip them out, and it's gonna be, this, like, I'm gonna fuck them up. Like that's what I thought. What I mean? And I mean, I'm sure it was rough for a little bit, but it was like, and I'm not gonna say that I don't want to. That my dad didn't do. I just don't feel like it was. I will say it. I don't feel like it was an accept. It was just the military. We had to move. There was no choice. You know what I mean? So you just had to deal with it. It was like there was other kids that were there too, but it was just like you don't like, it wasn't the same. So I just was trying to protect my kids in a way that was doing that. That's the one reason I was almost turned down moving here, and it would have been a huge mistake in my life. You know what I mean? My kids are happy that it worked out. You know what I mean? But those things of like. That's the one thing about, I didn't realize that, I had it that there was like these adult things that happened to me, I mean, that's when I changed, that's what the problem is. But as it's like everything goes back to something that happened to you as a child.
Yeah.
Right. And you just not being able to handle it.
And I think that's why I try to control, and having a family longer than I probably should have tried was losing my family, what I had as a kid when my parents got divorced. That was that rocked me. And then my grandfather dying, like the day I graduated high school, was a big one, because he was my pillar. Then my Aunt Beth dying when I was in Okinawa. She had a rare genetic disorder. And so I had a lot of hits coming. And so when I actually was able to what I kind of in my head was, I didn't want my daughter to be raised without a father, because although I was raised by my father, he did I guess a pretty stand-up job for what he had at the time he had it. You know what I mean? And your parents don't know what they don't know, and they did the best they can with what they had the time they had it. And so for me, I was like, my kid's not going to feel like she's not loved by her father, because I don't know, at the end of the day, what that would have done to her, but I wasn't going to let it happen. You know what I mean? And so I stayed with her mother for quite a long time. And it was very, very, some days were good, right? Not all the time. And as my kids aged and they start seeing the things that were going on, I was like, Jesus Christ, I got to end this. I can't have my kids seeing this shit. And so it was at the point where, I had to make a tough decision, and I did it, and I followed through, and it sucked bad. But then again, after I went through my suffering, and I pushed my way through the hard days, I ended up meeting someone that was, because I'm very codependent.
Me too.
So I need someone else. I can't do it by myself a lot. I always feel like I always needed something else and someone else. So that's when I met my wife, I'm like, holy crap, man, who are you? Because she's acts just like me, talks just like me, jokes just like me, same sense of humor, same movies, same music, same everything. I'm like, this is my best friend. I just met my best friend. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this is freaking great. Now, our child situation wasn't what we thought it was going to turn out like, because there was a lot of drama with the kids and inside the house, but it all worked itself out over the years. Everything's fine now. But at the end of the day, I was just like, wow, this is neat. Like, okay, I got something to believe in again. Because my original, obviously, construct of family was destroyed. And then again, my second family construct was destroyed. So am I going to do this fucking again? You know, so we dated for like 10 years before we ever got married. And it was not because of, you know, my fear of being with her. There was other factors like, you know, us getting married, increasing our income, child support increases, things like that. It was just because I was like, I'm not ready to do this with you because of me. Like I needed to fix me first because I still have things that I'm angry about. I still have things that I need to work through. And God forbid she make a simple mistake that I would look at my old relationship and go, oh, here it comes again, fucking gloom and doom. Let's OCD this one to the ground. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let's anxiety this one into the ground. And so, you know, and she was a big factor in helping me go, you know, go, I believe in you. I want you to do this. I think it'll work. And I'm like, okay. Because she'd heard us all before when at the hospital she works at. And you know, I researched it obviously heavily online before I made any commitment. And I did my workout, and Jake Ware did my rostering call. And man, I was a mess talking to that dude. He was like, does this, and this. I'm like, God damn, you know, I start crying. I cried on the phone for like an hour. He was like, all right, buddy, well, could you go to cohort on this day? I'm like, I sure can, you know. So I got there, and you know, you get there. And I remember it was like when I got to Paris Island, I got off that bus and you're getting ready to get on the bus to go to Paris Island. My legs shook the whole time.
Yeah, there's
uncontrollably.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, it's people. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody away to think about, but it's an intimidating.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, you don't know, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know what it. Yeah,
yeah. I made it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's.
I'd never done anything that.
Like I'm going to the container. Like I just got the list of the guys for next week, so and it's hard to explain to someone. So I'm like, I'm already loving on those guys. They don't know it. Like I can't, you know, I can't wait to meet them. I can't wait to get them through that. They're all probably, I mean, they don't know who I am yet. It's fine. But all the shepherds are just can't wait. You know what I mean?
And I can say that.
What you don't realize is how much love is there. That's one thing I was talking to somebody today is like, you know, for me, and I ask this question without giving away the game, so don't give any details. Like, when did you know, like, when did it bust open for you at Saul?
The first hour.
Yeah.
When I started seeing Joe Rob start drawing and doing I was like, what is all that? And it was all like it was like as they build the board, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah, because to me, I was like, I won't give away the specific, but to be as vague as like the mutual vulnerability. There's when the mutual vulnerability came out, right? Openly acknowledged, I was like, holy shit! Like that blew my mind. Like I was like, these guys are talking about the same things I said I didn't never talk about. I was like, wow! Like I was just amazed. Like
I was so proud of some of those guys too.
Yeah. I mean, I was just like, holy crap! I mean, I can't believe it. And then, like from the moment you get there, like my personality is always like sizing people up or like looking and watching like what's going on and like looking at these people. And
absolutely,
it was crazy. It's like it was probably within the first like 5 hours of being there, like every dude that I saw, like, you know, the stall staff, it was like they just seem at peace. They were like, you could just see that, like they just looked different. You know what I mean? It was like, what the hell? And that's when I was like, man, I'm just gonna keep. I don't know what the hell I got myself into, but I'm gonna just keep going because I want what they have. You know,
same man. And when I pull up and we're pulling up and they're taking all your stuff from me, and I'm like, the fuck am I doing? What is this? I thought this was supposed to be like a nice getaway.
Yeah, because it's like,
what the fuck, you know?
I just feel like that's because I'm one of the first. Like I get the role I have. It's always and
I think like for me, I didn't want to leave.
Yeah, I mean it's a great, but like I can't wait to go. I can't wait to go.
Like, I got more stuff. I think, you know, but that's when you do the work. That's what the work is for. They just kick the door for you.
But I think you don't want to leave. I think the part of it is like, you know, there was a part of me that was like, hey, the world is going to be in chaos. Like everything's going to be like, I expected to turn my phone on and like have like 900 messages and find out the world had like, and it's like, dude,
that was the nicest drive I've ever had.
Yeah. There's nobody everybody who knew who I was, that nobody was bothering me. I was like, holy cow, like I'm not as important as I think I am. But yeah, the whole thing was, I think I want to stay there because I was unsure how I was going to get into the real world, like applying that stuff in the real world. That's where it gets scary to me.
That's
what scary. Like
that's what you keep your fellowship.
Yeah, like
for.
You got to be like, hey man, I'm like, I know all this stuff, but like, what have I got to do? And I mean, that's when I just latched on to like, calling people, like that was a big thing. Like, that's, and I want to talk about that, kind of transition to this a little bit. Is like, you're the first, I think you're the first alumni we had that went back to the alumni. So, and I want to bring that up because, not to make you wrong by any aspect, but it kind of talks about what the community is. So the big thing about Saber Warriors, like once you're done, it's not over. So it's hard to explain, like, but it's not, this isn't like, this isn't go get like, what are you doing? And then like, well, thank you. It's free. So that, they didn't get any money from you.
Nope.
But there's a community that
they don't want anything from you.
Yeah, there's a community that you fall into, and yours is an interesting one. When I have it, the people that get stuck, they need to go back. That's how important. That's how big this community is. There is an opportunity that, like, hey, I went out to the real world. I want to do this. It's not working out for me, or I'm just, life on life's terms. Something happened, and you can, there's opportunities to go back, to get like reset, to go back, like I said, those bumper stickers to say like, hey, we'll bring you back to the door of integration.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
that's what worked out. That's why it worked well for me, because I knew I had an agenda when I got there, and I knew what I was expecting, so I knew what I wanted to say. And I got. So
did you know some of what was going to happen or no?
Well, I knew what the program was like. Okay. So I knew what I was. I knew what.
See, I was.
I'm talking about for the alumni. Not my original cohort. I didn't know what the hell I was walking into. I had no idea. That was mind blowing. Yeah. So the second one wasn't much less mind blowing either. It's just that I knew I had an agenda, what I wanted to do, and get out in front of everybody and talk to my brothers, and talk to everybody in the Band of Light, and talking to the people that that were working at the time, and getting it off my chest. And it was it was almost like twice as effective as the first time. And I was, able to find some different rackets that I was doing that I wasn't admitting, like I always wasn't being honest with myself about some of my behaviors and things that I hadn't addressed, or wasn't wanting to address. And then, going through the laundry list workbook and getting all the things done in that, and make sure that I'm answering that with concise thought rather than just writing down things, Yeah. And so I practiced that. And then when I left the second time, I really buckled into my daily practices and my day-to-day things that I do to keep myself,
So what are you doing daily?
Oh man, I do obviously meditation. I do guided meditations with frequency. I do sauna. Obviously, I still go to the gym. I still train jiu-jitsu. That I kind of carry that as like my therapy, because it's like the only place in the world you can go where you're around other people and you have to pay attention to one thing. Because if you're not paying attention, you're gonna get choked the fuck out. You know what I mean? So you can't your mind can't like
someone that's small.
You can't have all these like OCD thoughts, and my anxiety is like, it's like, you better focus, dude. You can get choked the hell out. So it's such a wonderful community and wonderful environment.
Sounds so enjoyable.
Oh, it's actually is. It's just the
jiu-jitsu guys. It makes me laugh. I mean, it's
fun, man. And the thing is, it's like you're there with dudes your own age group. You deal with like dudes in their 20s, and you're like fighting with these kids. You're like, God, that guy's I gotta roll with this young dude. Yeah. So old man better step it up, at least be smart. So I try to roll smarter. But the thing is, it's like almost like volunteer suffering, but it's all hard work, and we all care about each other. So we don't want to hurt each other. We want to help each other get better at things, and it's the camaraderie in the community. Just like I lost from the Marine Corps, you kind of found that there. I found it in the police department. So I would go find things where I could find that brotherhood type thing and sisterhood, because a lot of girls I train with too. And so I also found it in Saul. So the final Saul button, that final piece was what I needed to start my recovery and kind of my transformation from the grumpy, victimized, youth, adult child, with no accountability and no internal accountability, and to where I am now, where I'm like, I do these things, I have this thing, I do this thing, but I also try to work through it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think that the big thing is the community. I always try to tell people that there's, was always, not that, I think two of my good friends are down here with us right now, but it's just and they're not. It's not that they're any less important, but just having the community of it's huge, because that's all. Yeah, because it was something I was always looking for. Like, and a lot of people have like it seems like. It seems almost kind of like cultish, but it's not. I mean, I guess it is, but
I don't care. I like
it. But it's not. It's different. Like it's like that's the thing about it is you can't understand is it's like
I still have like me and my Brian Eisman and Austin Laus. We have an accountability group that we do every day. We text each other every day. If not, we catch up the last one. And it's just things like, what did you do today? What self-care did you do today? And 3 things you're grateful for. We do this every day.
Yeah.
So, for me, I text meditation, lesson, treadmill, and I was thankful for safe driving because of my job, obviously, my wife and my kids. And it just changes constantly. Like, what do you do each day? So, like, I know that my recent one, gym, meditation, evening walk, affirmations. So I do positive affirmations, obviously for the subconscious, because the words matter. The words you use are absolutely important.
Right.
Negative talk promotes negative health completely. It's like Zoroastrianism, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. I completely believe in that. You guys talk about faith with, Christianity. I'm more of a Gnostic Christian than I am a current Christian. I don't not subscribe to some of the things, but I also look backwards in other religions, Islam and Buddhism and, Taoism and things like that, where I can take things and go, that's good for that's good for people. That's good for people. That's good for, I like these things. So I read them a lot.
Yeah.
I have, websites I go to where I can just glance and read a paragraph and just dose myself. Cause you dose yourself with negativity, what's going to happen?
Oh yeah.
That's your reality.
Yeah.
Like I don't listen to fucking music like Linkin Park and all that anymore. You didn't know that this guy who's an amazing artist and this great band is singing suicide music.
Yeah.
Like literally that's what they do. Like a lot of these bands that were coming out in the 90s, all these grunge bands, it was all depression, sadness, da-da-da. And you buy into that shit. Like, yeah, that's me. My life sucks too. I'm fucking sad. And then you're angry because you're sad because men don't know how to handle, males don't know how to handle sadness. We make it anger. So you're angry at the world. And like all these things I created that were my problem, that were really not a problem because I was healthy. I had a house. I had a family who cared for me. And so I was like creating these, fake, not really fake, but superficial problems to help justify why I couldn't deal with my emotions or wasn't really, and I wasn't taught how to either. So that's another thing I have a struggle with society is men don't teach men how to be men anymore. And when I mean that, when I say that, I don't mean like to be gruff, rough, axe chopping, iron workers. I'm talking to men like you and I do, like our group does, Saw guys, our Chuck 3 guys. And we talk to each other about what we felt that day and how we handled it. And if, if you ask for advice, I'll give it. If you don't, I'm not going to say a word.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear a bunch of advice. I just want to tell you what I thought and I corrected it. And I wanted to tell you guys that I did it. I just wanted to have an alibi. Like, hey guys, I did this and I fixed it. I got upset for some reason. Like this happened and I corrected it. And they're like, good job, man. Super proud of you, dude. Cause I have my group is actually tonight at 8. We're doing the Loving Parent guidebook right now. I love that thing. God, that thing called me out. I
only laugh because one of my receipt holder, he hates. I mean, he just told me we finished it and he threw it in the trash afterwards. Yeah, he just was not. And I get it, but that's the thing about this community. It's funny because it's hard to explain it's not hard to explain because people do it all the time. It's like, dude, I get it. Like you don't like it. Like, but he did. The thing about it is he was there every day, every week and did it. That's showing up. That's all that matters. He shows up. He did it. You don't have to like it, but it's just. But the problem is, I would have been like really on him about why you're not doing it. You don't like it the same way I do. And that's the great thing about this community is people are doing different things. I actually love the Loving Parent guidebook.
Me too. I read chapters twice.
Yeah. I'm interested in the parts, but some people aren't. I get it. And it's just, that's what's great about the community. So many people are into different things. Like, you have, the community has a strong tie to, the 12-step stuff, you know what I mean? Which I get
I love the NCOA books, man.
And then, you have, I just traveling with a couple guys where, in Codependence Anonymous since, July. That's been an eye-opening thing to a point of like what you said before, like just doing and reading these things and doing stuff. I just find myself now all the time is like, it's interesting. I believed in a higher power, but I really fucking hated God for all this kind of stuff because I just blaming all the kind of stuff.
Me too.
Everything you see, whatever. But through Coda, I now have a relationship with the higher power. Like I believe that. And so the crazy thing is now when I read, like I have a daily reader that I've been reading for 2.5 years. I read it every day, and I read that. I think it's not rocket science, but I'm on my 3rd time through it, and like I'm reading it now, and I'm like, holy crap! Like I've read this twice before, and I just still see something different. And then the same thing with the Course in Miracles.
Oh man, that
some guys I fucking hate that book. I used to hate that book. And now when I read it, like I'm now like if you see my Course in Miracles, like some people have it like tabbed out and all this kind of stuff. The first time I did it, there wasn't a marking in that book. It was like I'm gonna read what they tell me to read. I'm gonna do what they do, and then just like close the book. And now that I'm going through it with another cohort, I'm like looking at and now I'm like, holy crap, it's tying into stuff
all makes sense.
I think it made sense then, but I just wasn't accepting it. But now I'm like, if you see my Course in Miracles, it's like I haven't tabbed it because I think that makes me look like a lunatic. But it's all this marking and stuff.
You can't highlight.
No, it is shitty paper, but like But I found
I
found a red marker that works perfectly. But it is like now I'm like, and then I'm like finding other books to like to tie into it. So, but that's the thing about the work is like. it's whatever your belief is, or whatever that works for you. The community is out there. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I just love that you guys are doing a Loving Parent Guidebook. Like I just
yeah, we're not done. We're
yeah.
You know, we got Jackson Galloway was my shepherd, one of my shepherds at my alumni cohort, and he's been with us ever since for my group, for my alumni. He's been like our impromptu leader for everything. Yeah. And we've been, man, I think he gets exhausted because he travels with guys and we're like, give me here right 8 o'clock. He's like, I'll be here, guys. I'll be there. And, we all show up for each other. If we're not, we will tell each other like, guys, I can't be here tonight. I'm sorry. We apologize. And we make sure we can at least have a cohort so we can go through the pages.
But going through together is interesting because I'm like, now we're getting another group to start in CODA. So now I have 2 CODAs now, calls a week. And most of the time, like I'm like the old me would have like not want to do this. Like now it's not a big deal. I love it. I mean, it's a chance to connect with guys that, and
it's the thing about that. It's a level that no other men can talk to each other.
Yeah. I mean, and just being able to like, just to be there and like, it's just like, there's something powerful. Like it's hard to explain to see guys that are just like doing the work. I mean, it's
fun to watch. And it's fun for me to watch these guys transform farther and farther.
Yeah.
And improve and improve and improve. I always brag about my buddy Nick Dersham. He's part of my group, and he had a real bad spout with panic attacks, and it was crippling.
I just met him about a month ago for the first time.
Great dude, man. He brought honey to our alumni cohort, and I ate it too late one night in my coffee because we were doing a laundry list workbook, and boy, was that a mistake, because honey is a fucking stimulant, and I laid awake all night. So I said, hey, man, that honey, we joke about it all the time now. Because you may bring, like, no, dude, no honey, please. So, but yeah, I've watched him, how his transformation's gotten more and more prevalent.
Yeah. I think
the things he's doing and coming back for guys.
There is something to like, I mean, I have it as like, it is transformation, but I just like the peace of like the look of peace and that people have in their life. That's crazy to see. Cause like I'm very fortunate to be able to go back, and for other men, like I said, I'm going back next week, to see these guys that are just like I was, like terrified and scared, to see them like 4 or 5 months later, or a year later. Like I'm going to see one of the guys I shepherded, that I've never met in person. I'll see him next week. I can't wait. I can't wait to give him a big hug. And
it's a great feeling.
But like, I can't wait to like, I can, that's the thing, is you just see, you see the guys that were at their lowest, right? It's just, and then now you just see them like thriving, and it's different things, man. The work isn't just like what we say you're going to do. Like once the stuff that you commit to, but then after that, it's like it's just open. And I'm just addicted to, I could say I'm addicted to seeing
process.
Peace. No, this is a piece. I don't like this. I guess addicted to work. Like to see the people, the look on their face. Like, one of the guys, from my last cohort just called me today, and like, he's like, this is a guy that was like, just didn't believe in himself, didn't be all this kind of stuff. And he just got some dude to submit today. It's unbelievable. Like, I mean, he's like, calling me like, thank you. I'm like, dude, I didn't do it. I didn't talk to this guy. You did this. You know what I mean?
When they see that's when they make the decision.
But it's like, you did this, and it's like, to see that, I'm like, I'm super proud of him. It's like, man, he had imposter syndrome, didn't want to come himself, you know what I mean? But he's
I'm not
leading a dude that, like, I mean, it's powerful to see that. It is like a cool thing to see somebody.
And that's what people, and that's how when I get guys to apply for SAL, or girls, I got women that apply for SAL as well. They can see the change in my personality and my behavior, especially at work, because a lot of them are first responders that I deal with, and they can remember like when I was just kind of it wasn't from what they knew, that's what they thought I was really like, and they speak to me now, and my energy level is like triple, and my attention's triple, and my positive mindset's triple, and I don't negatively speak at work. I don't bitch about my job. I'm thankful to have it, because my job helps me also stay in service of others.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, 100%.
And that's one thing we do at SAL is we try to stay in service of others, self-love, and acts of kindness. So my job allows me to be in service of others in a strange way that sometimes the public doesn't see, or the world doesn't see. But at the end of the day, I'm doing this for the better of what I call, mankind, is God's work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the service of others, that's I did the same way with the military, but I mean, now I know what exactly it means to be a service of others. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Marine Corps, that didn't apply.
But just in general, like it's just honestly,
people
like,
thank you for your service, and like,
but now it's like, I know what the service. That's what I'm saying, is like I mean, the guy that called me today, if it would, the old me wouldn't even answer the phone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would have just been like, whatever. But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it brought us together. I mean, like, it's funny, like, this first time we've met, but I feel like I know you just from, you know,
that's
we have a commonality, but just like, you know, in the community and knowing it's like,
that's the whole game, dude.
Yeah. It's
the game we play, man. You know, peacemakers and, you know, heart opener uppers.
Exactly. So I got a couple more questions. We hit about 2:15 or so, but a couple questions here. So, you know, you've got you're unique to your police officer and, you know, a veteran. So what would you recommend, you know, other than Saul? I mean, it is part of it too, but what would you recommend to help people rebuild that identity and purpose that, you know, you've seen it on both things. You've seen, like, you experience it right now with the Marine Corps. You know, had you not gone to Saul and you've experienced it soon, you know, when you put down the badge, like, what kind of recommendation would you give people to find, like, you know, with your experience in life, how to,
you've got to have something outside of this profession to survive the profession. A lot of guys retire, excuse me, and immediately go into depression. They immediately go into, you know, severe loneliness, anxiety, because they've lost their identity. They've lost that community they worked with. Going to the sub every day or going to the office every day and having 10 or 12 people that you see daily, and you have your little fake dysfunctional problems. Those are all, that's interaction. That's community. You lose that sense of community. And, you know, guys are so wanting to leave the profession of law enforcement, obviously, because it's a very tumultuous job. And no one calls you to say, hey, Johnny got an A today, or Bill got a promotion at work. They call you because they're having the worst day of their life. Mm-hmm. So you're constantly dealing with that. But that, in the end, it becomes normal to you, and that becomes your reality. And, you know, you think you can help people. When you lose that ability to think you can help people, and it stops being important to you, and you start losing empathy, you really start falling down a rabbit hole. And then imagining retiring with that mentality. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. And you'll see, like, veterans commit suicide, first responders committing suicide, because they lose their purpose in life. And life means nothing to them at that point, because they've, like me, losing empathy, walking around angry, and you don't know how to turn it off. You don't know what's causing these little problems in your life. And it's mostly 9 times out of 10 you know. And so for me, I would say anybody who's ready to leave this profession or leave the military needs to go through something mental health wise to help them figure out who they are again, because the identity is not real. I don't see myself as a police officer. My name's Joe. You know, my identity is not Columbus Police. My identity is not United States Marine Corps. Now, I took that character and kept it because I didn't know how to be an adult. And the Marine Corps taught me organization. It taught me, you know, integrity. It taught me, you know, reliability, resilience. I kept all those, the intangibles. But again, that, you know, my identity is now pro Saul is me. And I never would have found myself had I not attended that, you know, had I not taken the dive. And so, you know, if people are having mental health issues, they don't usually know it because they didn't know what they didn't know. They didn't know that some things in their life would cause them to feel the way they feel later, like 40, 50 years old, you know, and they're leaving their career. And I'll use, like, Shane, for instance. You know, he really went through it, man. He retired. He kind of had a emotional response to the political climate at the time. I was like, I'm done with this shit, man. And I was like, I didn't blame him. I was like, all right, brother, you know, we'll be here. You know what I mean? We're not going anywhere. And we keep in touch pretty much every day. Me, him, Brian Steele, and, like, he mentioned Dave Freetag, our other friend that owns our jiu-jitsu gym. He's one of my other best friends. And so we all keep in touch. And it's, you know, 9 times out of 10, when these guys retire, they stop reaching out. They stop talking to their former coworkers. They think, like, you know, they don't remember. They don't consider we're still working. I'm still on duty. Mm-hmm. I'm still deployed. You know, that's a lot of things don't get is, like, you come back from deployment, especially combat deployments, and go into the first responder profession. You didn't really give yourself a fucking break, man. You kind of turned it up a notch because all those patrols you went on, all those missions you went on, you know, they had sparse, they were split apart. You come home from deployment, you get time off, you get to unwind, put your pack down. When you go back into that work that we're doing, your pack never comes off. Yeah. You're fucking wore out, man. You're emotionally and mentally wore out. Your nervous system is fucking zapped. But you know what you do? You stay focused and you keep moving forward. At what cost? You're burning your candle on both ends. Mm. And so when these guys retire and they've gone through all that and they never had a chance to recover, there should be like a 6-month fucking window before you retire that you have to go to, like, some spa, daycare, mental health center where you can go, hey, man, all these feelings you feel, get them out. Come on, let's do it. Let's talk about it. Let's get it moving. You know,
or you can just go to Save Aware.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's the thing is I I tell people these things in groups. I tell the guys I work with, I talk about it all the time. I always talk about all around people because I don't know who might need it, but someone's listening and someone may want to take a dive and go. And I'm like, absolutely, dude. And I tell people like, how do you think, what do you think, how do you think you need to go? I was like, because you're asking that fucking question. Because you don't know. And that's when I was like, something's not right in my life and I need some fucking help.
Yeah, I use the parts of my life weren't working. I mean,
I stole that from, I stole that from Joe Rob all day.
Yeah,
man.
It's true. I mean, like, and I can't tell you what that is, but if I say that to you and I see somebody just go, oh shit, like, you don't have to tell me. I'll listen to you if you will. But like, if some part of your life is not working, and that could be like your marriage.
Here's what it did for me. My transformation was like I didn't want to be a cop anymore. I didn't want to do police work anymore. I came out of SAL and I was happy to go back to work because my perspective completely changed of what my mission was. And so I stopped giving so much terrible things so much meaning, like because we're meaning making machines. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And I stopped giving things all these negative happenings around me so much meaning.
Yeah. See, I tried, I also tried like the purpose thing. I just tried I tried to stop giving, making my purpose or my identity something that's going to end. So, work, being an Army officer was going to end, you know what I mean? And I probably, my wife hates when I say this, but like, I don't consider my identity as being a husband. Cause that can't end. I'm not saying it is, but like anything potentially, and my identity is not a father. Like, I mean, cause that ends. Like my kids are like moving out. Like I haven't seen my one son in a little bit.
I haven't seen my son since he graduated.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's the important thing is now that I know my identity, that purpose comes from something internally that can't be taken away from me. That's not going to end. You know what I mean? You can find that, and mine is, I'm fortunate to be, like I said, to be able to go back, and my purpose is to come back from other men.
Purpose is, I think,
these conversations. Where
purpose is the biggest thing. Losing your purpose, and that's why you see these guys spiral out. And
I think we have as we identify your purpose. That's what I'm saying. Is that your purpose is not. Is not to be a police officer. I mean, it may, but that's what you get wrapped into. My purpose is like this is.
You get wrapped into your.
You just got to find what your purpose is, and I can't tell anybody what that is. You know what I mean? Because it's all different. You know what I mean?
And that's why I look at it like you look at guys. You created this character of being whatever military, law enforcement, first responder, whatever you became. And a lot of kids that come up with childhood trauma. They were trying to create a person that would have made them feel safe.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the end of the day, you're still not that person you created because the kid still feels unsafe.
Exactly.
That inner child is still in there. That inner teenager is still throwing fits, and that fucking adult child is out there destroying everything in their path because they don't know how to act like a man or an adult. And so like with a lot of times too, you get some guys retired just fine, live the best life. Some guys don't, man. I've got friends that are retired now and they're loving it. Like, man, it's the best thing. Get out of there as fast as you can. I'm like, I'm not done yet, dude. I'm had a reset.
I think I have for those people is like they're you've said a couple times, Chuck, there, but there's people that have a good perspective on life. They've been through all the same things we've been to, and they
not everybody's
they figured it out. They figured it out.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's
and you and I
that's
are trying
always
to
you look
figure
why
that
these
out.
people figured out, and there's like you look back at those people that had peace. Like I can just always look back and be like the people that annoyed me the worst about like how they dealt with stuff. I'm like that's how I want to be now. Like I'm not worried about like these other things like
there's other things that are more important to me.
Like I'm not going to blow off doing this for that because it's because I want to get an internal hit or whatever. But it's just crazy. So one more question. I've asked this of everyone. So I know you're not a clinician, but with the veteran suicide crisis that's going on, veteran and work class police officers, first responders, what is needs to be done that's not being done, you think?
There needs to be more focus on communication with or without their consent. You give people the opportunity not to talk about themselves, and they're going to take that one. If you give someone in that field of work, especially law enforcement, first responders, and military, if you give them the opportunity to ignore, they're going to ignore.
Yeah.
Now, if you make it an order, but you got to take away any consequences, because if these guys are suffering and struggling, you say the word suicide or you say the word self-harm, the fucking brakes get put on.
Yeah.
Now, my department is doing wonderful with that. We have what's called a wellness center, and it's integrated with CFD, and a lot of the members that work there are SAL alumni or mental health focused officers and firefighters. And it's very anonymous when they go there. And if a guy's struggling, go there, talk about it, like, hey man, we can help you out. We got something for you. Your unit won't know where you're at. They're going to think you're on casual leave, with someone. We're not going to tell them what you're doing.
Right.
And it's between you to tell them if you want to. You don't have to, but this is private. And the city pays for that. They pay to send these guys out to get treatment. And it's, that 5 days they're gone, or 10 days or 30 days they're gone, is a huge time for them to be able to take their pack off, take their armor off, expose themselves to clinicians, like people that are never going to tell their story, safe place, like, being in the container, and just give them the opportunity to dump exactly what they're feeling. It may not even be related to law enforcement. It may be something like you and I talked about, childhood traumas, anything, for past physical abuses, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just, and a lot of people don't realize, like, that's the actual game. They think it's going to be like you're going to talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and they're going to make you take tests and ask, that's not what it is at all.
Yeah.
So they don't know that. There's a lot of stigma to that. And so we need to make sure that we're explaining to them, this is the path that happens when this goes on. Here's what we're going to do for you. So you don't walk in there blind, getting sent off to a psych ward for 30 days, getting pilled up and till you calm down. You know what I mean? That's what people think. Because when we take people to like net care, to the hospital when they're having a mental health breakdown, it's almost completely medical until they get to see the doctor and they send them off to another hospital. So that's what these guys think is going to happen. And it's not, because you advocated, and it's voluntary. And if you don't advocate for yourself, obviously, that in this world right now, you're going to be stuck in what's like the system of healthcare and mental health. Whereas if you can help these guys understand, these women understand that if they take that route and go to these places, say, hey, I'm having some problems. Now, this is just my department. I've heard of other agencies that are like, hold up, you got to go see the psych. It's like, that's not what I'm going to do. So they think they can tell the people they trust the most, who they risk their lives with every day and are willing to risk their lives with every day. And they tell the story of what's going on with them in their head. And that the only response is like that, oh God, you got to go dunk them in water. You got to go over there for a while.
Yeah.
We're taking your gun and badge. We're taking your firefighter. We're taking your blood gear from away. And we're going to put you in an office for 6 months until you get this figured out with the therapist. And it's like, that is not how that should have been handled. It should have been private, anonymous, and completely secret, And when they come back, these folks will tell what happened. They're like, I went to therapy. It was great. These people are awesome. I feel great. I'm glad to be back at work again, because they see so much darkness day in and day out and the way they handle the darkness they see is taking these people to these psych locations, and they can see how they get carted off like basically like a patient. And that's not how they want to be treated. Yeah. They want to be treated like a person.
I think that's that's a great way to put it, because I think that's exactly what Save a Warrior does that people don't realize is like there's no clinicians there. There's nobody's taking records or notes, anything. Everything is anonymous. Like there's no, there's nothing, nobody's reporting back. Like I'm not like there's no community. There's no notes. There's nothing being taken. It's just like, hey, it's just what happened. There's nobody talking about, this community is like not like where, can you believe what Joe said or whatever? It's not like that. So that, like I said, the being able to, being completely vulnerable with no consequences is huge. That's what a lot of it is, just to be able to get it out. Say, hey, this is what, this is what
a safe place to talk about the darkest things in your heart.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think that's the communication. I mean, it always goes back to, I think, just the communication, being able to, I have it. It's ultimately my responsibility. If I would have ever took my life, it was because I didn't reach out. I mean, there were tons of people that were trying to get me to do that. There were tons of people that wanted me to be, they wanted me to get help, but I just wasn't doing it.
Just save one.
Yeah, exactly. So, this is your episode. So, anything else you want to talk about before we go?
No, I mean, we hit a lot of topics. My thing is with me is doing the work has completely. Like I'm almost devoid of my previous way of thinking. Like it's foreign to me now, the way I used to think and perceive the world. I don't have the, I still have like the catastrophic thinking from, OCD and anxiety, but I catch it. And then being able to be a member of Saul, I can talk to my Saul brothers and say, guys, and it's like, okay, got it. I'm like, yep, I feel better now. I don't want to do medicine. Like psych meds don't appeal to me. I don't like the side effects. I've seen some of my friends go through with the VA. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I think I'll just rock this right now. Cause I'll fuck my own life up. I don't need your pills. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'll fuck my own life up. I don't need your pills to help me with that. So, when I was talking to the VA clinician when I had to do another mental health eval with her. And I told her, she's like, I told her what my daily practices were, and she was like, "That's awesome. You're doing all that work." Because very few people will ever do that. Yeah. She goes, "I could talk them blue in the face," and I was like, "Well, I try to share." And the only thing she offers is, "You ever done equine therapy?" I was like, "No, my buddy does that." She's like, "It's awesome. You try it." And I was like, "Sweet," and that was pretty much the end of the interview. Like we did our questionnaire they do now for all the mental health stuff, and so with my OCD and my generalized anxiety, it's not going anywhere, but I can cope, and I recognize it now, and I know I don't have to listen to it. You know what I mean? My thoughts are not my own. You know? So
check out Sock Hands. I got the Friday night Veterans Night twice a week.
Where's
twice
that?
a week month. Just up in Delaware.
Oh, okay. That's the thing for me is my job's so crazy. Like my schedule's so crazy. It's like I'd love to go hang out, but so that's why I don't like missing my meetings on Thursdays because that's all of our my guys.
And it's what works for you. That's the thing is like the search is just find what works for you, because it's
like I do more therapy with those guys once a week than I would do with a therapist in a month.
I was laughing because my wife, she had a rough week with some stuff, and she volunteers on Tuesdays and up at Stock Hands, and she wasn't feeling well, and I'm like, you should go, and she's like, yeah, I can't. And it's when you look at her too, the powers like old me would have been like, I'm sick, I'm not going, you know what I mean? But she's just like, yeah, I can't bail on other people, and I would like screw that. But I get into like she comes back super happy because she's around horses, which the whole that stuff works. It works for me to get through it, and
I've seen
to do something for other people. I think that's the thing is I have it now that like, man, just do something for somebody else, and that just helps all the time. You know, man, that helps me.
Yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to come back for a lot of guys at work, and that's where I right now with my availability. I don't want to half-ass traveling with someone. Yeah, like, hey man, I can't make it. I'm out on a I'm not doing what I'm doing right now. I can't come home. I'm not even home yet. Sorry, brother. I can't Zoom right now. So we all got our your traveler application after we finished Course of Miracles and did the 500-day plan. And I was like, if I do that, that's because I'm being selfish. Yeah, I just want to be a traveler. I want to. At the end of the day, I'm like, I'm doing that person no good by being this half-ass person because I still have to do what I do to make money and survive and feed myself. We're all tubes.
I think you have time, man. You'll have time to.
Yeah, I will. I will. And I absolutely plan on doing that. So that's still on my complete agenda, things that I want to do with my life. And I know now that I can do what I want to do with my life because before I was just riding the wave of life. I was just going where life took me. And a lot of times it wasn't the best place. And now I make clear, concise decisions on my reality and how I'm going to handle it and what I'm going to do with myself. And I've slowed the fuck down a lot because life is loud. The world is loud. Everything's fucking loud. So when I can go meditate, listen to frequencies, I drive listening to that shit. Like I drive listening to frequency music. I love it. And so it keeps me focused on what I'm doing at the time. And, when I can harness my thoughts and harness my focus, I can achieve 1,000 times more than I would just bumbling through life, unguided, not having a purpose, not having a mission, not having an agenda. It's like I have a daily agenda, and I make time for myself. I don't think people do that. People like, well, when I get time, like, well, actually I make fucking time. I either go to the gym in the morning before work or I make sure I go directly after. I make sure I do my meditations. I make sure I do my, my readings. I make sure I do my lessons in my books, my, Loving Parent Guidebook, Course of Miracles, which initially I just liked that book. I fucking was like, what the? And as you get through all the lessons, you're like, it all kind of speaks back and you're like, I get it now. And you start practicing those thinking, you do the repeat, you repeat the things to yourself. Exactly. And that's what I think is like when people don't train their subconscious to change, you have to physically change it. You can't just let it doesn't go away. The positive thoughts, positive deeds, positive words, you have to do that. That's the only way out. Yeah. You have to force it on yourself. And then when you start noticing your life gets a lot fucking easier and things are a lot more brighter and the world's not as bad as you thought, like as much as the TV would try to tell you, it's like I've been lied to my whole life and I've been afraid of nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've been afraid of fucking nothing. I was afraid of my own imagination for a long time. And, a lot of times it was me putting myself in those situations where I did it to myself and I'm the suspect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's about it, man. I don't really, just hoping guys can see this. And, if anybody's obviously struggling, they can always call us. Yeah. And that's the thing is I've talked to a lot of guys and girls that were, dark, man. And I was like, understood, under fucking stood. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Get them in touch with the right people, get them hold Larry Turner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I told people too. I said, you know, one phrase I learned from Larry Turner that I always take with me is like, you done suffering? You done suffering? Put that bucket down. That bucket of shit you carry around with you, that horse shit bucket, just set it down. Walk away from it. It's like, that was, you know, that seems absurd, but it's literally that easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's what I kind of hold true to my heart. And I hold, you know, a lot of the phrases we take from cohort, you know, parts of my life weren't working. I needed some help, and I still do need help.
Yeah.
I still struggle with things, but I have a group of people now and an organization that you and I belong to. We can have these podcasts and talk about mental health and you know, pain and trauma, and it's completely acceptable, and it's actually promoted, and we seek it.
Yeah.
I seek hearing you say these things to me because it helps me with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, it's a, you know, every time I travel, someone would do, you know, it's always saving me.
How much more normal do you feel?
Yeah, people,
God.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't like, it's, you know, someone told me a long time ago to get rid of all of my addictions. You know, you got to replace them with commitments, and I have tons of commitments, but I don't. But my life is so much like just at peace. You know what I mean? Like there's just there's not this. I'm not caught in this, you know, the hamster wheel and like worried about stuff like you said before. Like I'm not
repeating those fucking cycles.
I don't. It's not that I don't have a problem with things sometimes, but what I just don't walk around. I'm not scared to walk around anymore. I'm not, you know, I'm not angry. I'm not afraid.
Dude, I don't even. I mean,
so that's
I go places now and I don't even look around.
Yeah,
I used to walk everywhere, staring everywhere, hands, waists.
Yeah.
I can walk into the grocery store now and go right to the aisle.
Yeah.
Or right back to my truck. And I'm like, this is a nice day.
Yeah. It was one of the things I laugh about with the peace comes is like, you know, like concealed carry. I used to carry it all the time. And like someone was like, you're gonna get to a point where you don't even want to carry anymore. And I'm like, that'll never happen. And I find myself now, I'm like, no,
I'm that guy right now. I do keep my weapon with me because I have to.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, and I'll find myself like something will be like, you know, like I found I still with that aspect will happen, like you'll like a shooting will happen or something like that where I get worried and I'll but again that's
a fear response.
That fear that comes back in, you do it, and then, like, but
response.
It is funny. I'd be like, I always carry this thing everywhere, and I'm like, now I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I only carry my weapon now because other people.
Yeah.
Not because I'm afraid.
Yeah, but I don't even like sometimes not even because that I'm like, it's just I'm at peace. You know what I mean? I'm not looking.
Oh, and I have no desire to interact or engage.
Yeah.
You know, not work. Well, that's my job. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
That's my profession.
Yeah.
You expect me to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You require me to do those things. So that's why those get done. But I'm not driving around on my own going, oh, I got a dangerous motherfucker right there. I better pull around and watch him.
Yeah.
Mine don't even notice people anymore. I'm just like driving, gym, home, grocery store, pick up grandson. You know, and that's a big thing for me. That's been awesome is I get a third chance to be a parent with my new brain, with my saw goggles, with my grandson.
Awesome.
Dude, it's fucking hilarious. It's the best thing. So my daughter's now 24 and our relationship is amazing now. And it's literally me changed. And she got older and started more mature thinking. And my son and I have always been super tight. He's one of my main training partners too in jiu-jitsu. My son's, you know, high school wrestler. He's a beast. He's training MMA now. He's going in the Air Force May 4th. So he'll be in the Air Guard and come back and we'll go from there, see what the next steps are in life. We're not jumping into anything full, you know, like you and I did, like, let's go full go. And like fucking now way into this thing. Like, how do I get out? You know what I mean? Exactly. So I've taught him to slow the fuck down and do things at a pace and make steps. And he's doing a wonderful job with that. And then my daughter, when she had her son, my grandson, Waylon, there was a complete switch came on. And she became this very steadfast, very reliable, you know, very strong little mother. And she's amazing at it. I'm just like, God dang, did I have anything to do with that? You know, the way she treats her son, the way she raises him, and his father didn't work out, which, you know, young relationships, who am I to blame? Like, look at me, you know what I mean? And so, but having him around and seeing how much he acts like me, I'm like, hell yeah, dude. So we can act bad at the house. Like we can carry sticks and hit shit and chase my dog and, you know, all the things he does. And he's throwing balls and breaking shit. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. You know, now other grandparents might look at me like, you're going to make him nuts. I'm like, so what? I am too. You know, whatever, dude. And my life's fun. Yeah, my life's fun and yours sucks. So I do fun things. Yeah. You know, unfortunately for me, some of my hobbies are absolutely dangerous. But at the same time, I have fun and I enjoy my life. And I'm not going to stop living it because of other people's expectations or my perceptions of other people's expectations of me, because other people's opinions of me are none of my business. Yeah. Now, you can remember a time in our life when everyone's opinion was our biggest deal. You know,
that's one of the things I put down and left. Mm-hmm. But when it comes up, I definitely make a call to somebody. So
absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming in, Joe. It's been an honor to have you in.
Thank you for having me.
Looking forward to coming there. I don't know. I didn't ask you earlier.
Hey man, it is what it is. Everything's at the right time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Jay Clark says, there's no such thing as time, man.
Exactly. So we're gonna, unfortunately, before we close it, we'll honor a veteran who unfortunately took their life tonight. We honor U.S. Army Sergeant First Class Jacob Elliott Stafford, 35. Jacob took his life on February 7th, 2026 in North Carolina. Jacob was born October 25th, 1990 in Erie, Pennsylvania. Jacob began his life of service as a junior firefighter with the West Ridge Volunteer Fire Department. After graduating high school, Jacob became a fireman with the City of Charleston Fire Department. In 2016, Jacob made the selfless decision to leave fire service to serve his country as the United States Army Green Beret. Jacob co-founded Peace at Work in 2014, channeling his drive and leadership into building something meaningful. Jacob was known for his big, bright, beautiful smile and personality that could light up a room. Jacob found joy in fishing, skydiving, spearfishing, and CrossFit. During his free time, he loved spending time with his loyal dog, Banks. Jacob was known for his bravery, discipline, and quiet strength. He carried himself with humility while accomplishing extraordinary things, earning the deep respect of his fellow soldiers and all that knew him. Jacob's legacy is one of service, courage, loyalty, and love. Jacob's memory will forever live in the hearts of those who knew and loved him. Jacob is survived by his father, Herbert, his mother, and her partner, Nanette, and Matthew, brother Herbert III, his wife Sarah, niece and nephew Elliot, and Herbert IV, and numerous other relatives and friends. And please, if you or someone you know is in crisis and might be considering suicide, please contact the Veterans Crisis Line at 988 or 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255 or chat online at veteranscrisisline.net/chat. And again, can't thank you for coming on, Joe. Thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you for yours.
And thank you for the service to the citizens of Columbus for 25 years now.
Thank you to the service, of our future alumni.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. It's my pleasure. So I think we'll end it with a quote, and then kind of the good one here. This is from Joseph Wynn, which is, "Don't believe everything you think. The only way to break free from our thinking is to let go and trust that our natural inner wisdom will guide us back to clarity and peace like it always has." So that's a book that I just reread. Really good one. I read that about 2 years ago, and I just re-listened to it on audiobook and loved it. So I thought I'd throw that in there and you'd appreciate it as well. So
absolutely.
Again, thanks for coming in. News-wise, I think we're booked here out. So pretty far, which is awesome. Booked all the way out till July. We got our 100th episode. Nick Flores will be joining us for the 100th.
Nice.
But if anybody is interested in getting on the podcast, please let me know. We'll get a hold of you. We'll find you. But we'd love to have you and share the story just like we did with Joe today. So we'll see everybody in a couple weeks. Remember, be kind to yourself, honor the stories of veterans, and remember, when you sit down with a patriot, the conversation is different. Have a great night.